Hey, that's what I'm talking about. What's going on, everybody? Welcome, Goglings, Gogletites, Gogorifics. Welcome, of course, to the show, which is this, Pen and Pixels. I am your host, Arvin Elleron. It is episode 134 as we play D&D with GOG, Storm King's Thunder with myself. I'm your host and Dungeon Master, Arvin Elleron, and the rest of the team, who I'll introduce in just a minute. First of all, my apologies for the late start today. Discord and Roll20 elected to go down at the exact same time at right around 3:25. Which, since I was finishing up my stream about 10 minutes before that, you can imagine put kind of a damper on trying to actually get set up for things. This is not obviously what I had been planning. I guess it had something to do with some Google database thing. But anyway, they finally solved the problem and they got it up at about 5 minutes to 4. But it meant that we got sort of delayed quite a bit in dealing with that. So I apologize for that. Also, we do have a thunderstorm going on out here, which has been going on for the last hour or so. We've had a couple of electric flickers, here. So I'm hoping that will be something which will cease and that we won't have to worry about that long term. But in any case, let's hope that that's not an issue. But I'm just sort of letting you know because we've got Dungeons & Dragons that is going on right now, and I am very excited for it, and I hope you folks are too. Before I introduce the wonderful people to you, let me remind you about the ways to support this. If you haven't already done so, please follow GOG, your DRM-free community. Please make sure as well to sub to the channel because you can get a lot of awesome emotes there, which are always fun and good at parties. And if you haven't done so already, please consider as well checking out all of our individual channels as well. We have Patreons and subsystems and things like that also. So we got a whole bunch of stuff going on there, which is useful as well. And now with that said, let me turn on that. Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. I hope everybody is doing well. Again, apologies that we're getting started late. But as I said, kind of, I could probably deal with not having Roll20 and we could just do all Theater of the Mind, but oh my God. I just got a sub on my own channel. Thank you very much, Garmin. Thank you for becoming, I think that's a resub if I'm not mistaken. Thank you for subbing on my channel. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. And yeah, so so anyway, when both of those things go down at the same time, that kind of makes things tough. Discord and Roll20 at the same time is a little bit difficult. So they finally showed back up, and so that's great. But my goodness, that was a little crazy for a while there. So if you haven't done so already, as I said, follow the channel, sub to all our individual things, and get ready for what I think is going to be a fun session involving perhaps a little bit of maybe even some dancing. We will see if that's the case. But I'm going to unmute myself so that the fine folks know that we are ready to go, and then I'm going to unmute them, and then I'm going to swing over there right now. Wait for it. Like this. There they are. There is the wonderful crew. We are here. We are ready to go. We are all in. I love it. All the four. I love it. Everybody hands up. It is the victory march. I can already tell we are ready to go. By your powers, we are Captain Planet.
Man, if we found a fourth bottle in that, we'd have spelled a word.
I want to know who is heart in this team configuration. Like, who's heart?
You're the heart of the party.
You're heart. Oh, I'm heart.
I always thought that was the most amazing stuff, and it was like he did not get treated right in the Captain Power. So I always wanted to have the ring with the power of love.
Yeah.
Because he was like kind of the underdog, and I was always sad for him. So yes, please.
For me, it was always, honestly, I was always a Voltron guy, not the stupid car one, the lion one. Okay, that's the one that counts. But Red Lion, man, set me up in the Red Lion, and I was good. Red Lion was always there. He was always a big part of the Blazing Sword. Like, that's what you always wanted. But why are we talking about Voltron?
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about Voltron. It was the best.
What is Voltron?
Let him get on with it. It's fine.
You didn't just say what is Voltron. What is Voltron? I'm terrified. Chat, help me out. Please tell Pyron Jade, our wonderful stream team leader, what Voltron is. It's the greatest.
Is it like it's a TV series, I gather?
Yeah, it was like you had 5 lions on this planet, and they were all piloted by this team, and it was this ancient thing, and there was this dude who always tried to destroy them by using this thing called a robeast, and they could all do cool things, but then they could form together to create Voltron, and they came together. 2 of them made the legs, 2 of them made the arms, and then there was the body, and then they could literally, the way that all of the episodes ended was they're losing, and then they make Voltron, and then he puts his fist together and creates a blazing sword, and then slashes the hell out of the Robeast, and like the Empire loses another 50% of its GDP, because I imagine that's what it cost them every time they tried to destroy Voltron. It was the best. Oh man!
Just out of curiosity, how do you pilot a lion? Do you just grab it by the ears?
No, it was a huge robot lion. You were inside it. It was a ship. It was a huge robot lion. It was the best. I am so disappointed. I am disappointment fills my features.
I am very sorry.
Oh man.
Okay, so all in
I
favor
will
of maybe putting this on pause and just watching a few episodes of Voltron.
I mean, I'm just Voltron, right? I want you should show your oldest at some point, Pyron, and he will see the magic of why Voltron is the best. It's the 70s anime version of Power Rangers. What? It is absolutely not that at all. First of all, it was the 80s. Secondly, it's not anime. And thirdly, the Power Rangers was live action terrible. Like that.
That was totally anime.
Oh.
That was not anime. That was definitely anime. You can't. I'll give you a lot of things.
Well, all right. I guess it might be anime. Maybe because there were the large eyes. Okay.
The girl says it was like Saber Rider. I liked Saber Rider.
Yes, or a little bit like also Battle of the Planets. Was it like G-Force? Did you ever know? Oh God. I mean, it was less cheesy than Thundercats, which was still great.
Oh, I like Thundercats.
Yeah, Thundercats was tremendous. Anyway, okay, well at least you like Thundercats. That's good. We can still be friends. We should get going and actually play because we'll just wander through 80s. I mean, look, folks. When I came home after school, when we only had 3 channels, it was watching General Hospital. So when I was able to watch a cartoon, believe me, I was all about that cartoon after watching General Hospital when I was like 12.
I was not allowed to watch cartoons.
Really?
Yeah, my parents thought they were bad for me.
Oh well, they might. I mean,
I also had very limited computer time because my parents thought it was bad for me. This explains so much about what I'm doing today.
I was gonna say.
And you turned out fine.
I was gonna say it all worked out. She's like, now I'm gonna go actually run a streaming channel. That's what I'll do. Mom, Dad. Yeah. Oh man.
I'm gonna go work on the internet.
They don't know.
They don't know. You just tell them you disappear for periods of time, like.
They don't live here. I'm grown up.
Well, but I mean, they can also get on a computer. You know, the internet does exist at other places. It doesn't.
Yeah, so what?
Okay. Someone needs to correct this. Someone needs to find out where Paranjay's parents are and be like, look, you should be so proud of your daughter. This is what she does now. And then just send a link, you know?
Oh, no.
Speaking of these wonderful people that I'm talking to, the person I'm speaking to is the aforementioned Pyron who, despite the fact that she does not know Voltron, which is troubling, at least she does know Thundercats, and she turned out to be a wonderful person anyway. Pyron, how are you, and who are you playing today?
I am playing Greta Goldenfire, Dwarven Cleric of Foltos. May his light shine on your way. And I think we're moving house, so I'm like perpetually stressed and terrified of everything. Mm-hmm. But it's okay. It's completely fine.
It's completely fine. Remember, the Stoics said this too shall pass. So this too shall pass. And eventually you'll be in your new house and it'll be fine. One of the people playing with us today is in a house and he's fine. Like he moved. He's still alive. So this will happen. Have faith. And if you have problems, remember, this would all have been avoided if you understood what Voltron was. Okay, moving right on down the line, we have the wonderful Dark Saber 2K. What is up, Saber? How you doing, my friend? How's life? And who are you playing today? And when are you going to your big music festival, by the way?
That's in about 20 days.
20 days, okay. Because I always kind of know that's when summer is starting to come to an end, when Saber goes to his festival. Like, that's a milestone for me.
Oh, chat, I'm going to Gamescom, just in case somebody's there.
Ooh, wow. Gamescom, nice. Outstanding.
And I would like to say, based on what chat is also saying, yes, I was a Centurions man growing up. Oh boy, growing up. So big shout out to the Centurions fans in chat there, because there's only about 5 of us, and we were all convinced we imagined that show.
Yeah, come on. I know what the Centurions are because I Googled it.
Because you Googled it. Did you guys ever know the show Silverhawks, which was a space version of Thundercats, basically? You did? Okay. Because that was not a very long live show, but okay, all right. So, yes, okay, so a Centurions guy, but you are not playing a Centurion in the game. No. Who are you playing today?
I am playing a halfling. I haven't decided what he is today yet, but he's definitely a halfling. We'll have to just find out what he's doing. Oh no, halfling master dancer. That's right.
Right, exactly. Ranger and also a master dancer. So he is Michael Flatley, Lord of the Dance. That is going to be him. I'm digging it. Awesome. Always a pleasure to have Saber here. Thank you, sir. Also, thank you for. I think Pyron did the dashboard and you did the Moobot. So I want to, somebody. Okay, well, whoever did it, you're all wonderful people, and thank you. It was Saber. Okay, you're the man. Thanks, dude. Moving right on down the line. Plus 5 every weapon now from now on. I'm just kidding. Not really. Moving on down the line.
I did dashboard.
We have I
did the dashboard too.
we all did dashboard. Hashtag we are all
I
dashboard.
dashboard, and so did my wife.
That's funny. Moving right on down the line, we have someone who has successfully moved house and is here with internet and everything else. And there's the new place. How are you, Mike? How is the new place, and who are you playing today? How's the new home?
So the new home is warm, incredibly warm. It doesn't help the fact that since we've moved in, it's been the hottest summer in England and the UK and the general area in like 30 or 40 years, which probably means nothing to most people, but it's it's very warm. It's so warm. I can't convey how warm it is in this country right now. But anyway, that's
what I was hearing.
As I'm in it. Yes, it's warm. Did I say it's warm? It's warm. I'm going to drink some water because it's warm right now. I'm still warm. So I am playing Urash. I really have to remember who the hell I'm playing. There's so much has happened since the last time I played.
A whole lot has, yep.
Like, everything has changed. I am playing Urash, a half-orc barbarian and devout follower of Tempest, as I quickly Google all of those things to remind myself one. No, I'm joking. Some things never leave you. But I'm excited. I'm excited to get to the ball. I'm excited to wear my tux. I'm excited to find out what on earth is going on. I'm excited to see everything that's going to happen and how the curse goes as well, because obviously Urash is suffering from a bit of a curse at the moment.
Yes, just a small curse, just a mini curse. But yes, always a pleasure to have Mike back here, and I'm glad to see that although you are warm, you are still with us and kicking, and that's great. And I will summarize in just a moment all that has happened, because a whole lot has happened in a moment. But first, I want to talk to someone who may or may not be warm right now. I don't know what it's like in the Middle West of the United States, but that, of course, is Tasty Chai. Is it hot, steaming, or cold, or what's it like out by you?
It's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
It's been like very high 90s for several weeks, and I'm totally over it. So yeah, it's pretty bad. I don't know what that converts to your crazy non-imperial system.
700 Celsius, I think, is what that
it's very hot.
Gas mark 9.
Yeah, it's been warm, and I'm very much over it. But there's nothing I can do about it except stay in my air-conditioned apartment, which is what I'm doing.
True. And who are you playing today? Who is not hot, but actually is the opposite?
Yeah. I am actually playing a silver dragonborn named River, who has an affinity for eating and apparently loves her new pretty dress. And apparently is fairly decent at dancing, which we didn't know. Yeah. So that's kind of fun.
Yep. Yep.
I'm very excited to see how this ball goes and to see how many people she can offend. So,
I'm excited to see the same thing. The only issue we had was the sticking the landing, but the spin and all that was no problem at all.
Yes.
Well, it is a great pleasure to be back in the saddle with these folks because it had been a little while because of internet issues and stuff like that, and now we are back and ready to go. And let me get some music going and explain to chat what exactly has happened for those of you who have not been here and seen us so far. I do want to remind everybody that on my YouTube channel and on, of course, the GOG Twitch channel as well, as I frantically look for where the mute button is. There we go. On the Twitch channel as well, you will find the previous videos in this series, so you can actually catch up with them. And it's hard to believe that this actually started with some of these folks all the way back in Tribor, basically all the way back in Tribor with Terror at Tribor. And then over time, we built stuff up and had a bunch of people come in and leave again. Fleos, Memories in 8-Bit, Chrono Wolf, of course, joined us. Mega Pieman, PhD. So there's a whole trail of character bodies, so to speak, behind us. But these are the folks who were able to stick it out as we entered Storm King's Thunder. So the overall issue right now is that the Storm King's Thunder relates to issues with the Giants who have been raiding towns, attacking places, and basically being aggressive in a way that has not been seen for a very long time. No one's really sure as to why this is, but there are rumors that those who are in charge of trying to basically tap these things down and keep the Giants in a very steady and even keel, that the ordning which controls them has been broken. Nobody knows if this is true or why it is true or who was behind it, but the party has sort of partially by accident been kind of brought into the middle of it, trying to figure out what is going on with these Giants. To that end, the party has thwarted several Giant attacks and has gathered information, and there's way too much to go through all of it. You should watch Mike's excellent summary video for at least the first third of what we did at this point in the campaign. But over the last couple of sessions, discussions, the party has been in Waterdeep with the express purpose of trying to meet with a Lord Roaringhorn. The reason is because Lord Roaringhorn was the last place where Artist Cimber was said to have gone, and Artist Cimber is supposedly in possession of a very dangerous artifact called the Ring of Winter, something which gives people control over snow and frost, something which has a deep affinity and connection to the giants, which is evil, cursed, and bad, and which the giants really want. That is why they attacked Bryn Shander in the first place. And so as a consequence of this, the party has gone out trying to discover where he was, and they have tracked him down to this fancy ball. Thanks to this, and thanks to their preparations, the party got ready to go off to the ball, but there were some complications, as there usually are. Specifically, they needed to learn how to dance properly from Master Stevenson, who was a genius. The problem is Master Stevenson was missing his dance shoes, without which he would not be able to dance properly. Think of, out of character for a moment, Dumbo and the Feather, right? He needed to be able to have this thing, so he really felt like he could, you know, move along and do what he needed to do. And so the party ended up uncovering this very minor conspiracy to basically take the shoes away from Master Stevenson by some of his rivals. They managed to get those shoes back, and when they got back to the I just looked over and I just saw caps like all like flowing up the chat. We're being quiet.
No, carry on.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It was the quietest yelling I ever saw. So they managed to get back these shoes for Master Stevenson, and they also discovered in the city of Waterdeep that they are being watched. They're being watched specifically by Harper agents. Now, part of this may be related to the fact that River herself is a Harper agent initiate, that she has been basically invited into this cause, and the dragon Kalismana, with whom Urash feels some strange ancient affinity that's not really clear, but Kalismana, who is also a Harper, basically told them that he felt that River has great potential and that there are others who are interested in her as well. And so they're basically monitoring to see how they do. As the party has gone around Waterdeep, irritating certain dance instructors and making friends with other ones, they managed to get Master Stevenson to teach them what they needed and did so spectacularly well. Urash was in particular just very gifted and demonstrated his gifts by being able to toss River into the air, who was able to spin very nicely, not so much on the landing, but, you know, while Selsig and Greta were going along, Greta was not really doing so well on the dancing thing, but managed to make it work. It was kind of a, you know, instead of ballet, it was some crunk instead, I think is what we were doing. But it worked out okay, and actually seemed kind of brilliant. And so Master Stevenson pronounced them ready to go, and to go now to the ball of Lord Roaringhorn. Now, as a reminder to folks in chat, Lord Roaringhorn lives up here to the north of Waterdeep, and I will ping it for all of you. Lives up here to the north in the Roaringhorn estate. It's called the High House of Roaringhorn, which is in the city's north ward. Sorry, actually, that's where Stevenson is right there, I beg your pardon. But the actual house is right about here, so it's very close by. And the party is now going to be going over, as evening has fallen and it is time for the ball, to try to gather information, meet with Lord Roaringhorn, and hopefully find out what the hell is going on with this Ring of Winter and with Artist Cimber. And so now that you are caught up in about 5 minutes with literally a year plus of a campaign that we're up to so far, I'm going to hand it over to the party. You are on the road, prepared to head to the ball. What would you folks like to do?
We've got our stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Urash, what does it say on the invitation exactly?
Sorry, I was on mute. I shall pull forth the invitation.
Okay.
And hope that reminds me what it actually says.
Sure. So the invitation essentially says you are cordially invited to the social event of the season, Sir Lord Roaringhorn's Great Ball at Waterdeep in the High House of Waterdeep in the North Ward, and then this date, this time, etc., etc., etc. And it says below, formal dress and dancing attire required.
But didn't it give a false name for Urash?
Yes, that's right. Urash, actually, it's correct. It was not made out to him. It was made out also to a Roaringhorn.
Yeah.
So the suggestion was that he is viewed as like a cousin,
or something like that, yeah.
or like an uncle, or something like that. It's not very clear, but yes.
This is going to be real awkward if this is not another orc.
And your name, by the way, in here is the name is listed as Lord Jonas Roaringhorn.
Jonas Roaringhorn.
Good orc pedigree.
Hmm.
Okay.
Of the Skull Splitter Roaringhorns. I knew your father.
He had a good skull.
Until I split it.
So I'm not saying we should find out if there's any inheritance due to you from your long-lost family, but...
However, that's a bloody good idea. Maybe one of my long-lost family knows how to remove curses.
We can all have our own gambling den by the end of this.
I think just because of the size differences, River should go as Uraj partner for the ball, and I go with Celsic.
That's probably a good idea.
Probably, yeah.
Now that's true. Are you coming up?
It's gonna get real.
Are you coming up with name besides Urash? Are you coming up with names for yourselves, or are you
I'm
just
just like, well, I'm sorted.
No, I think no. I'm not going to lie. No.
I don't know if I know how to lie.
Ay, ay, ay.
I can. You know, I'm.
No wonder we're always getting in trouble.
Celsic's just like, man.
Uraj, you can just, you know, present me as your cleric. I think big houses have clerics, and I am a cleric, and I'm traveling with you, so that's technically the truth.
I don't know if that's a thing. I'll trust you on this.
You hear an ominous rumbling in the distance. Greta.
So yeah, I
Fire
will
sprays out.
go in as Greta Goldfire, the cleric. Celsic, what about you?
I'm going in as Gislas, Celsic backwards. It works for Dracula.
Gisles. Oh,
Gisles Roaringhorn, I guess.
No, wait. Is your last name Wham? Then, like, Wham.
It's
Yes,
wow.
yes it is.
You sound like a Faerun private eye.
I like the idea that
Gisles
River is going to go along with this, so she becomes Rever, which doesn't really do anything, but like. Oh man.
I should.
I was actually going to introduce myself as Urash's bodyguard just to get some mileage out of that.
This is my personal security detail.
Alright.
Great. I mean, Uraj is going in as Lord Roaringhorn with his partner, and we're just his retinue or something.
Entourage.
This is
Entourage.
Gislas. So we've got Greta, my personal cleric Greta. We've got Rever, my partner, and we've got Gislas Wham, my accountant, / personal security.
I'm so glad you didn't call yourself Hassa Aru. Like, you didn't have to do yours backwards. I am Hassa Aru, monk, or something. Oh man.
Yeah, that is right. This the dwarf monk from the tavern wanted to be at the ball as well, right?
Yes, and in fact, that's correct. Yes, that's right. He actually came up to you. This is Cantabus Redbeard, who just as we ended the last session had offered to join you. Now there are 4 of you, so you could make that happen. But he has offered to join you. He definitely was holding out his hand to you, Greta, as kind of like, it's important that we work together. That's important.
So,
He seems nice.
yes.
This is the crazy dude, the crazy monk from the tavern, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Who is dressed, by the way, identically to the way he was dressed in the tavern. Like, no
No,
talks
no,
or...
no. We did not go through all this dressing thing to now go in with him. No. No.
I love the fact you were on board until his dress code became an issue. He's like, oh, he can come along. Not in
Right,
those
after
shoes,
God's Day.
though.
So do you want to, I mean, so are you informing him of this, or?
We can meet on the inside. I will stay with my party for now.
He says, very well, my dear. I will do whatever I can to be of help to you. I feel like we have a connection, this group and myself. I will do what I can to be, he whips his head around, inconspicuous. And then he goes like, apparently zipping off to the shadows, which for him is basically like running in a straight, obvious line towards behind a barrel, and then like ducking down very slowly, like he's in an elevator, like below the level of the barrel.
I look at my companions. He will so get recruited by the Harpers.
Hey,
Well, we did.
that guy. Okay.
Okay, let's move on in.
So are we all okay with who we are? We're all okay with our
I'm
names?
totally fine with who I am.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's see. So we've got Greta Goldenfire going as herself. We have Gisles Wam. What exactly is he to you again in this conception? Like
The bodyguard.
I'm his accountant / security expert.
accountant / security expert. Okay, so you're
I'm
the
a
Joe
future
Pesci of this group. All right. And then we've got Urash going as Jonas Roaringhorn, and then we have Rever. And what is Rever? in this?
I don't know. It sounded like I was gonna be his +1. Like we're going together because of the height thing, but I actually wasn't sure.
That's right.
I'm sort of just flabbergasted. Like I don't know what's going on. I just want to wear the pretty dress. I'm kind of distracted. by
Okay,
that.
so you were his accompaniment. You were escorting him, or he is escorting you to this ball.
Yeah.
I dig it. Okay, that sounds good. All right. Well, as you make your way up, you notice that it is indeed very crowded. There is a whole host of people getting up, dressed in like diamonds and gems and pearls and like every description. There's a lot of, even in the torchlight. It's obviously dark now, but even in the torchlight, there's a lot of glittering that's being reflected from the various jewels and gems. There's also a very heavy guard presence. You can see that there's lots and lots of guards in the area. Some of them look to be city guards. Some of them look to be, they are wearing leather armor, and they seem to be relatively well put together, but they're clearly not guards. If you had to guess, you would assume like private security force or something like that, mercenaries that are there to secure it. And there are several guards up at the front door that are actually taking, as people walk up, they're handing some piece of paper that they hand to the guards, and then the guard looks at it and hands it back to them and then waves them on. And so as you come up the stairs and it becomes your turn, you come up to the stairs and stop in front of them, and they say, "Yes, welcome, my lords and ladies. If we could have, please, your invitations." And he holds out his hand expectantly.
Yep, sorry, I was on mute. So I passed him the invitation.
Okay. And he looks at it and he says, "Ah, yes, Jonas Roaringhorn, pleasure. We had heard that you might be in attendance here. It is so wonderful, and I know in particular the family is so excited to see you. Especially I know the aunt and the uncle, who have said that they look forward to talking to you about the old days." And he smiles at you widely. And then he says, "And who are these three persons?"
I will motion around the group. This is Greta, my personal cleric. This is Gislig Ram, my accountant and security advisor, and also a personal ranger. And this is Rever, my +1.
So they look at all of them and they sort of nod, and he says, I see. So normally, of course, guests are only permitted to bring in just one additional person, but since, of course, you are a member of the family, that situation will be waived. I would, however, ask all of you to remain somewhat vigilant. We have heard rumors that there may be an attempt to disrupt the ball. We have a very heavy security presence here, and I don't expect there'll be a problem, but they have asked us to let the inner circle, such as yourself, pointing to you, Urash, know about this sequence, this situation. So if you could all be aware of that and keep that in mind as you move about the place, we would appreciate it.
That's very kind of you. Perhaps someone could give my security advisor some more details in private in regards to this, to help protect us in this situation.
And he says, "Oh, yes. Well, certainly we'd be happy to do that, but we should let the line continue to move. If you wish your security consultant to speak to one of my men inside, we would be happy to give you more details."
Thank you.
And he nods and he says, "Enjoy the ball, Lord Roaringhorn." And he kind of sweeps low. You notice that, actually, everybody make an insight check for me, please.
Oh God, I've forgotten how to use Roll20.
What do we do?
So much has changed. Inside.
Got 19.
All right.
That's probably going to do it. Is
Loading.
that
10.
have I done that?
River, you're like, everyone's so nice. Greta, everyone's so nice here. I feel like River thinks everyone's so nice, and Greta, you're just kind of like, there's a lot of people. There's so many people.
He massively just works out considering he's pretending to be a security consultant.
Right, exactly. And so, Urash, you pretty much are like, oh, everything seems fine. The only one who notices, Selsig, is that you notice that the guard, as you pass by, seems to spend a little bit more time lingering. It's not clear exactly who he's looking at. It could have been Urash or it could have been River, but definitely his gaze was lingering a little bit longer than it seems to you they did on other people that entered the establishment, for whatever that means. You pass inside, and that means it is time for us to change up our music, because the time has come for our dance. That's right. So, as you enter the central room, once you get past the hallway, it opens up into an enormous room with a massive chandelier on the top. There are windows all around the outside, and you see placed at regular intervals next to those windows guards, probably a good 10 guards in the room that you can see. And there are many people that are dancing already around the floor. There are lots and lots of people there. If you had to guess, several hundred that are all dancing around together. And on a raised dais towards the back of the room, there is a group of musicians who are playing. They are playing with lute and flute and drum and harp, so all very nice and very stately. Everyone is dressed, of course, to the nines. And you can also see that sitting up on the dais is a very distinguished looking older gentleman, and next to him, in a chair next to him, is a also matronly woman that are looking out with smiles as they observe the audience in front of them. If you had to guess, you would assume that these are people of some significance that are up there, and you were there in the ball. And as you come forward, a footman steps forth and announces in a loud voice, "Now announcing the arrival of Lord Jonas Roaringhorn and his retinue, Giselle Ruam," he kind of stumbles through this name a little bit, "Greta Goldenfire, and Rever, his +1. And he stops and kind of looks around. And
make it awkward.
And everyone stops and turns around and start clapping, you know, like, oh. And you notice, Urash, that there are a couple of people who are walking over to you, sort of hurriedly. Like, as soon as they heard your announcement, they seem to be walking over to the group of you.
Oh, crap.
And they come up. And they come up to you at last, and they say, "Oh, Jonas, it's," and then they stop and they notice that despite the fact that you've got the, you know, the hat, you're dressed really nicely, obviously, you know, your orcish features, and they sort of look up and down and they go, "Oh my, well, I," and so one looks at the other and she says, "Oh, well now, Julius, of course we never knew exactly who Jonas was. We've never met him face to face. It's just odd to us, though, that your poor departed mother never gave us information about it. It must have been difficult for you, growing up the way you did in a life of luxury, and yet condemned to live life in this fashion. I mean, not that there's anything wrong, of course, with being an orc, of course, right, dear?" And the husband is like, "No, Julius," is like, no, certainly not, dear, of course not. Well, what my wife, your aunt, means to say is, it is a great pleasure to see you." And he holds out a hand to you, Urash.
Before I shake it, what were these people's names?
Well, you only know the guy right now. His name is Julius.
Julius.
But you don't actually know who she is yet.
Then I shake Julius's hand.
And he shakes it, and as you grip it, he's kind of like, "Oh, it's quite a grip there, powerful grip," and he takes it back. You can tell that his hand is soft, like definitely the hand of a nobleman, you know, not the hand of a guy who's been like working on the fields or anything. And he says, "It is a great pleasure to meet you at last, Jonas. When the letter and invitation went out to you, of course, those invitations have been sent many times before, and we had made it clear to Zelron that we didn't know that you would actually accept it. It's such a pleasure to see that you've finally changed your mind. I'm sure that he, too, will be happy to see you. And, of course, he never talked about it to us either, did he? And Julius looks at his wife, and she says, oh, no, certainly not. It's surprising that he never mentioned. Of course, he spent so much time with you when you were a child. And she sort of kind of jerks a look over her shoulder, and you can tell that they're talking about clearly the guy who's sitting at the front of the room. Zelron Roaringhorn must be the Roaringhorn, that they're saying, like, spent all this time with you when you were a kid.
Oh, good. Then I'm in line of sight of him. Fantastic.
Yeah, he hasn't noticed you yet, but he's sort of talking to everyone because he's way back of the room. And she says, well, Julius, we must take him immediately so that Zelron can see that his invitation did some good. And he says, no, Relia, please. So her name apparently is Relia, Rellia. Relia, please, my dear. There's no need to rush things. Lord Roaringhorn, Zelron's got much to do here, and our Lord Roaringhorn must see and be seen, especially since I can see there are other plus ones in his life, yes? And he sort of punches you in the shoulder, and then he kind of winces, like, because your shoulder is like brick, right? He's like, oh! Like, so he kind of shakes his hand. And he's like, oh, but please introduce me, and who are you, my dear? And he kind of looks to you, River.
Oh, I'm River. It's nice to meet you. And I try to, like, curtsy, but I don't know how because I'm big and awkward, and so I, like, just sort of bend over all awkward and come
The
back
tail,
down.
like, flies up. Like,
Exactly.
Did you say River or Rever? I thought I had heard it pronounced differently. Was it?
It's Rever. It's pronounced differently to her kind. But
Oh,
so
yes. Of course. Cultural differences are what make the City of Splendors what they are, of course. Some of my best friends are Dragonborn, isn't that right? Yes, yes, indeed. They all nod at each other. So he says, well, it is so wonderful that you could accompany him. There were some who felt that this man, secretive though he was, would never be capable of perhaps finding some companionship. It's wonderful that you found him. Where did the two of you meet?
Oh, well, that story's for another time. Maybe after we've done some mingling and some introducing. But we'll be sure to come back and have a good long talk about it. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've been in a social situation, as you're probably aware. And I'd like to, if we could, I'd like to introduce myself I'd like to meet Zelron myself rather than being taken over to him. I'd like to do some shaking of hands. It's been too long since I've been in this sort of situation.
Oh, yes.
You know what Mother was like, always keeping me locked away.
And he sort of nods. And he says, yes. Well, at least until you left the home at 7, of course. But I understand that before that, yes, she could be a hard woman. I think that's true, wouldn't you say, Relia? Oh, yes. I always said to Julius, that woman, she can be a hard woman sometimes. And they kind of nod at each other. And he says, and these other two, your attendants, no doubt. I see you have built an entirely diverse group. That is the kind of thing we would expect from a Roaringhorn from the provinces, wouldn't you say? Oh, yes, there's no question about it. And what are your names? And she bends over and, you first, sir. And she bends over to you, Celsic.
I am Gisles Raum, manager of Lord Roaringhorn's accounts and security expert.
Really? I'm certainly glad that we actually have a security expert here. You know, I've heard rumors that someone is going to try to disrupt these festivities by posing as someone else. Can you imagine? Oh, it's all too exciting for words. I suppose I should be. And scandalous, yes. Oh, that's what I meant to say. Scandalous. You could tell she clearly did not mean to say scandalous. She's like, oh, scandalous, yes. Scandalous, certainly. Scandalous. You said, you're a security expert. That's so wonderful. So, how did you gain this knowledge? And she sort of stares at you for a minute, Celsic, and then her Julius is like, oh, dear, the security expert won't talk about that, of course. He must have some professional distance. Oh, yes, of course, I apologize. It is wonderful to see you, Gislak Suklog. Clearly has no idea what you said, like, botches the name terribly. And she says, and finally you look to be one of the cloth. Are you helping bring our Roaringhorn, our Jonas, into the light, one prayer at a time?
Faldos brings light to everyone, and while Jonas and I may not agree on everything pertaining to religion, we still find it very I'm so tired. We still find it very important and intellectually promising to talk about these things.
Oh, I see, yes. Well, intellectual study is fascinating to me. Tell me, do you believe in the tripart or the bipart soul as reflected in both Flautus and Tempest? And she kind of looks at you with a grin.
That topic would take up too much of the evening, I fear. But I hope to see you later again. Then maybe we can talk about it.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I would absolutely love that. Perhaps we can exchange calling cards. There's nothing I love better than talking about religious doctrine. Well, isn't that right, Julius? And Julius says, yes, dear, that's quite right. You can tell that he's had this discussion before. He's like, yes, quite right. But Relia, we really must let these fine people go on, of course. I suppose, and he sort of looks back, I suppose then you will also be coming, as he looks at you, Arash, to have talked about the business, yes? And he kind of drops his voice and says, the business.
Yes, indeed. Do you know, is that happening afterwards?
And he sort of looks confused. He said, afterwards? Well, I don't understand. I mean,
well,
are we talking about the same thing?
It's quite a sensitive matter, I assume.
Oh, well,
we're doing now in public, are we?
He says, no, that's of course quite right, yes. It's unfortunate when business must mix with pleasure, but you see, the death was so sudden that, well, information about where the estate would be distributed has been difficult to come by, and so I was interested in that information. Quite frankly, we are, of course, independently wealthy, but there are other members of the family who are not so scrupulous. I would cast you, Jonas, as one of our dearly beloved relatives, even though we've never met face to face, to be careful, be on your guard. Not all roaring horns roar in the same way, he says dramatically, and kind of looking at you.
I just kind of laugh with the not like an orcish laugh, but like a and I slap his shoulder, but very lightly. Like
he still is like, oh, that's, yes,
like super lightly.
Yeah, it may be as
like
much
I'm
about
trying
him.
to brush dust off his shoulder.
I got you. He goes flying across the room. No, so he's like, yes. Well, in any case, I'll allow you to go. We will be happy to allow you to introduce yourself to Zelron, of course, but be aware that there will be others coming up to you, I think, in the not-too-distant future. And, of course, there is the group dance. The Roaring Horns are naturally expected, of course, to be a part of that. I trust you have already thought about your special move within that dance?
Yes, I have.
Wonderful. I cannot wait to see it. You know, it's the highlight of the ball. Many of us have been wondering what it is that you would do. Very exciting.
They're not the only ones.
Very exciting. And he nods and he says, well, I'll allow you to enjoy the ball. Also, remember to try the foie gras. It is absolutely exquisite. And he nods his head and inclines his head to you. And Relia comes up to you, River, and just whispers in your ear and says, best of luck, dear. He's a good one. And then wanders off, disappearing into the crowd. Now, the crowd has been, some of the people here have been sort of looking at you curiously as you've been talking. And now that you're done, there's still some of them that are nearby still kind of looking at you as if waiting to see what you're going to do.
I will link arms with River.
Okay.
What?
I will link arms with River, and I will motion Celsig or Gislas to move us forward to, say, a side of the room, or not a corner specifically, but a quieter area than the main entrance.
One question, because some of us did have weapons on us when we came here. Were they taken at the entrance?
Yep.
They were, yeah. Okay,
yep.
just so I'm clear.
In particular, they were. Let me clarify. they were not roaring. Urash's was not taken because presumably the special treatment, blah 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 blah. But the rest of you had your weapons taken, and in particular, the security expert had the weapons taken at that point. I mean, they seem to believe that you're a security expert, but you know.
I'm wearing a tuxedo, a top hat, and a great axe on my back.
And the thief's just in a giant attention-grabbing suit made of money with only a lockpick to his name.
Yep, it's all about that tailoring. They did not, and they didn't find the lockpick, which I believe you had either sewn into a lining or you did something with it. So, okay, that's what I thought. So they did not find that. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do I still have the watch?
Yes.
I do.
Yes.
Okay. Can I have the watch not on display, but like with the chain out of the pocket?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I kind of assumed that was part of the outfit anyway. So
yeah,
yes.
You said I think originally it was in the inside pocket because
Oh, I see. So you're shifting. Okay, yes.
That's you said it seemed strange that it wasn't already on display because it was quite an ornate thing. I didn't know if there was anything specific about the watch, but I just remember the fact that that was an item I've got in my inventory, and every time I see it, I'm like, where the hell did I pick up a watch?
Yep.
Oh yeah, the suit.
Have you? I should ask, by the way. I don't think you've ever actually looked inside it, other than the first time, right? I don't think, or am I wrong about that?
I didn't look inside it at all.
That's what I thought. So
I've never opened it.
Okay, that's what I figured. So yes, you can certainly move it to another pocket if you wish. That's certainly fine.
Yeah. It'll be around the time when I was like taking the invitation out and then putting the invitation back or whichever. I would have gone, oh yeah, of course, and then like pinned it to the button and then put it in the pocket.
Okay. All right. So you do that, and now, so you're able. So Celsig, are you trying to move them over to the side? Like, is it? Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, make way, Lord Roaring Horn coming through.
I like that you're making way for the orc. I love that. Like, just like
there's just a voice at like knee level.
Half orc, half orc.
Yeah, because someone's just getting like poked in the back of their knee.
It's like it's like the scene in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the film, where he's the dwarf who's actually a dwarf is walking forward and just like make way for the Queen of Narnia. That's the image that I have. So
I've just got like Gaston and LeFou in my head. Like I've just got Gaston just like strutting around like this. It's out of the way.
No one danced like Gaston. No. Yeah. All right. So you make your way through. You make your way through the crowd and over to the side of the room. And as you get there, you notice that the music has shifted, and now they've gone into a quieter sort of waltz of some sort.
Menacing atmospheric music.
I wouldn't say menacing, no.
Fight
I've
music.
always found this one creepy.
Well, it could be. I guess there would be a version of it. So, as you are over there watching as people do this, you have sort of cleared out a little bit of space. There's still people who kind of look over at you, glance over on occasion, but no one seems to be specifically staring at you at the moment.
Okay, cool. So, if we're all stood very close, is there anybody like very close to us?
Not close enough. I mean, if you whispered, they wouldn't be able to hear you. You don't know how long it would take before people noticed that you were whispering, but certainly people can have quiet conversations here without everyone, noticing.
Okay.
You're fairly near a guard, by the
Area
way.
secure, boss.
Fairly near a guard. They're not so close that the guard could hear, but the guard is like pretty, 20 feet away, 15, 20 feet away, something like that.
Okay, cool. So, to Celsig, I'm not going to say Celsig, obviously, but to Celsig, I will say, so if you go and find out what you can about this potential trouble that may be imminent, then, we can be on our best guard in case any imposters were to, try and crash this ball that my family has quite kindly put on and invited us to.
But are we the imposters?
Shut up.
Of course I'm keeping my voice down.
Specifically, if anything were to happen, is there any, special people or units or troops or, anything like that that's maybe not on display because, I don't know, maybe they're too powerful in all their wizardly glory. Maybe Elminster himself is their personal security detail. I don't know. All I'm saying, they could have an Umberhulk sat in the back, for all we know, for these imposters. I think the key thing is I, as a Roaring Horn, should probably know about these things. So you, as my security consultant, can get me out of here as quickly as possible if this goes sideways.
Yes, boss.
Yep, cool.
I just disappear into the crowd.
Awesome.
I don't
Also-
get old.
Go ahead, Greta.
Also, we should see who has an eye on us because somebody gave us this invitation. Somebody wanted us to be here.
It was a
And
woman,
we-
I believe.
And we don't know who yet. So
I remember
I think
asking.
somebody might approach us or at least keep an eye on us, and we should find out who it is. Maybe it's him, Sauron himself. He said Sauron. He said Sauron Roaringhorn. And
He turns to me. He's like, "I see you."
I see all. He's just a disembodied eye, like in front.
He's
like
just a floating fiery eye with a tux underneath it.
Oh god.
And so, I mean, it has to be somebody in power and somebody who they know who we are. And if Mr. Sauron Roaringhorn was not in on this, it would blow our cover quicker than anything. So I guess somebody in a quite position of power. Might you've heard him. He played with little Jonas when he was a child. I don't think that children suddenly turn into half orcs.
No, so I want to personally. I want to stay as far away from Sauron Roaringhorn as I can, unless he is aware of everything that's going on. I get the impression that the minute someone introduces me as Jonas, then we're screwed. Game's up. What I would say is, and I need to double check this with Arv actually, because it's been a very long time since I got this piece of information, and I don't have my notebook on me. When we received the invitation, I asked the tailor who left this specifically, the suit, and who paid for it, or everything like that. And you said it was a woman. Is that correct?
Right. That is correct. And
I don't remember if there was a description. I think it was just like, oh, she was, average height, average build, wearing a hood.
That is, yes, that's absolutely right. And actually, this is an interesting point. I don't remember whether you ever had, I know that Celsig and Greta were there. I don't remember if they also heard this description or if you talked with them afterwards about it. Okay, so they don't know about this conversation.
I was super creeped out, but they were getting dressed. They were getting kitted out.
Yep.
As I was having this conversation with someone.
It was indeed a woman, but you've never talked to them about it. So.
So I'm regretting not telling Celsig this now, to be honest with you. But I will quickly impart this information to them. So we need to be on the lookout. When I received the invitation, I was told that a woman prepaid for the suit, and the suit was containing the invitation. So if there's any suspicious women that are making sure they are following us or anything like that, and maybe not like just the noble women, but someone who might not belong, then we should probably be on the lookout for that.
The Roaringhorns are quite a powerful family, so I think we might look for somebody in a position of power here. Okay, yeah. I think we should move to the food, because if you're eating, nobody wants to talk to you. Because
that's a good point. Also, one of the things we do need to make sure is we ask. Well, I say ask, but we need to. So we need that. There's been a death, and quite a sudden death. We don't know what that's about. It's just known as the business or the business at hand. But we need to start asking people about the Ring of Winter, without saying. So we're looking for this legendary artifact.
Has anyone seen the ring?
Yeah. Is there a Ring of Winter? Anyone say a Ring of Winter? No one move. I've lost the Ring of Winter.
By the way, Greta, just a quick reminder, when he talks about this woman, just a quick reminder that he's talking about a woman that was back in Bryn Shander who left this for him. So keep that in mind, that it was a woman that as he describes it, the woman seems vaguely familiar to you, but you don't know why. But it was someone that you feel like there's it sounds vaguely familiar to you for some reason. And again, this is the first time you've ever heard this story, so yeah. Wait.
Did he get a description of the woman? I thought he didn't have one.
He had a basic one, which is that she was medium height, that she wore a cloak, and that was all. But yeah, he did not get a lot of descriptions. But the point is, I don't think he hadn't even told you that it was a woman that creeped him out.
That sounds familiar. So
Is this going to be the only woman that Selsig and Greta met in Brinchanda that I didn't?
No, she was totally crazy and wearing strange clothes. That couldn't be. Another woman with a cloak that we met was actually back in the city near the Goblin Cave. We met a cloaked woman there.
Was there?
Yes. You know the town we saved? That one.
Was she not part of the Zentarim?
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. So yeah, suspicious female character. Yep, fair dues.
I'm not good with names.
Beldonna. I want to say Beldonna. She was on my quest log for ages when I was writing one.
Well, there was the person that you're talking about who was from the city. The crazy woman that you're talking about was named Beldora.
Yeah.
Was named Beldora. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. What was the name of the woman from Zentru?
The name of the woman from Nightstone was Kella.
Is
Kella Darkhope.
Kella, yeah, that's the one.
That's her. Okay, cool. So, yeah, that's really good point. If we see someone that we recognise as well, then be on the lookout because we don't want them to give the game away. Unless they're in on it. Who knows? I don't know. I'm very suspicious. I'm a roaring horn now. We have to look over our shoulder all the time.
So let's go to the buffet and have some food and maybe listen in on some people and we get some more information.
Yep, sounds good.
So as you turn around from this conversation, you are confronted by a vision, I would say, in red. So this is a woman who seems to be very well preserved, but clearly in her later years, who is wearing... Now, you've seen red. You've seen red in blood. You've seen red in, like, the red of anger. This is all reds in one. Like, it's multiple shades. Her dress is red. She has a sash, which is red. She's got a poof thing around her neck, which is red. A collar that's red. Just red, 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 red. Everywhere is red. The shoes are red. And she's like, "Oh, darling, I heard you talking about the Roaring Horns. What wonderful people. I must introduce myself. I am..." And she sort of stops and then looks at you and she says, "Well, of course, you know who I am, don't you?" She kind of waits expectantly. You have no idea who this person is.
I'm terribly sorry.
She says,
wonderful
very
dress.
long journey.
"Last Christmas, last eventide, in the champagne room."
I must have
I just
had
look at him and I'm like, "What did you do?"
River's like, "You bastard."
Do you actually say that?
Yes.
Okay, so she looks at you and she's like, "Oh, never mind, my dear. It seems quite evident that he may have forgotten something that I have not. But let me explain something to you. Caninia Darkheart does not get thrown to the side so quickly." Now, her voice is starting to rise a little bit, and a couple of people are sort of looking over at her. She's also very clearly like 3 sheets to the wind, like 12 sheets to the wind, like very drunk. And you can tell that she's like, "I had expected we would meet under better circumstances than this, and yet here you are denying me while this scaled hussy here has the nerve to stand here next to you. And then there's this. Do you carry 2 of them around for show?" And she points at you, Greta, like...
I'm just going to intervene. I'm just going to intervene. I'm just going to lean in to Caninia and say, my dear Caninia, you must forgive me. This has been a very traumatic time for me, and my memory, whilst you know how I can party sometimes, my memory sometimes isn't what it used to be, and you will just have to forgive my foolhardiness in forgetting such a memorable and wonderful night last eventide.
And she says, she nods, she says, "Well, I don't know. I mean, I never got a letter or a message from you. There you were, and then you were gone, and nothing said to me, as if I was just a good to be used and then discarded. And now you return without even a note or a by your leave, and I am humiliated, and I don't know if I can forgive that, and it's a terrible thing. even if you are a roaring horn, and she like her, you know, now it seems clear that like she's not trying to embarrass you. She's just kind of like going off. She's like, the world, and you know, and all that. And a few people are sort of looking in your direction.
Shoulder.
Yeah.
I will put my hand on her shoulder, and I will draw her closer to us, like the group of people, so she's closer to us. And I will say something that I've not thought of yet.
She stares at you and she's kind of like sort of snivelling.
She's like, this is only going to last for a second or so before something happens. My dearest Kaninia, I can only apologise. The life of a roaring horn, as you probably well know, time is an ephemeral thing. So is the idea that I know what ephemeral means, and it's.
She looks confused.
Family business can bring us away from those that we care about and those that we spend time with, and situations and society can bring people together and tear people apart. And it's one of those situations that it's a very fluid life that people like you and I lead, and we're the better for it, and we're stronger people for it. And together, I'd hope that we could move past this unfortunate business and continue to be people of society together.
And she kind of looks at you. Make a deception check for me, please.
Oh, fuck.
It was going so well.
Did you want to intimidate her into doing this? You will do what I say.
It's only going to be a matter of time. I even said in chat, I don't know how long it's going to go before I have to roll a dice. Anyway, this is it.
Oh,
end of game.
So she's like, she looks at you and then her eyes fill with tears, and she's like,
inspiration.
She's like, well, that's true. Now, chat, that's true.
Inspiration.
Now, chat.
Somebody help him.
For those of you,
where are you?
For those of you who can remember that if you are over on my channel, if you are subscribed at $9.99 or support the Patreon at the $10 above level, you have an inspiration that you can use in this chat. So if you're one of those people, you can use them to give Screaming Joypad an inspiration so that Urash cannot faceplant, socially speaking, at this moment. But again, you have to be at that $9.99 level, so you can tell me if you're here. Nonstop did use his to actually save the AME crowd, so
it did Echo Alpha X5.
Oh, Echo Alpha is inspired. All right, Echo Alpha has done the job. All right, so Echo Alpha is inspired. I got to remember to write that down so I make that mark. Thank you, Echo Alpha. All right.
So I just roll again.
You know the drill. That's it.
What check was it again? Deception.
Deception. Yes. No. This time you're not rolling twice. You're just rolling the second. Oh.
No!
So.
You wasted it.
So you're like. So you say the first. You're like, huh? And she's like, her eyes fill with tears, and she's like,
so sorry, X5. I'm so sorry.
It's just not the way you treat someone like this. It's wrong, and I can't imagine that. And Lord Zelron will hear of it. And she marches right off through the crowd, heading straight up as fast as she can go towards Lord Zelron at the front of the room.
Do I have any opportunity to stop her without manhandling her?
Well, you tell me. How are you going to try to stop her without manhandling? I mean, you could literally just pick her up and put her on your shoulder, but like, you know.
Yeah, I think that would probably.
Knee in front of her.
Okay. I will kneel. I will kneel on one knee, and I will call her name again.
And she looks over her shoulder, and then she sees you kneeling, and she stops. And she's a little bit of a distance, so now people are all sort of staring at you. There's a good, like, 30 people now that are kind of all gathered, like, looking down at both of you.
Can I, while this is happening, have made my way to the buffet, so I'm just ignoring everything?
Yeah, absolutely. You could absolutely do that. And the buffet, by the way, should I say, has, it looks like a roast leg of lamb. It looks like there might be some pork there. There's definitely some chicken going on. There's also at the back end what looks like a fountain of chocolate with a swan in the middle.
Okay, so I will
with a dragonborn in the middle.
Sampling the wares.
Right. So, and there's a line, like, people have these little plates and napkins where they're taking just, like, little bits. So, like, how are you taking?
I'm definitely not being as neat as I should be.
Okay.
But
Just
I'm
like-
not making a scene. I'm like kind of in between.
Okay.
Chocolate covered dragonborn.
Okay, so you do that, and by the way, Celsic, you hear there's kind of a disruption from the distance, and you actually are able to look over just enough to be able to see from a considerable distance now, everyone gathered and whispering, and you hear something about roaring horn and knee and proposal and something like that, and people murmur, and you sort of look off, and you can see that where you left your companions, there seems to be a disruption of some kind.
Now apologize.
I'm just not even going to bat an eyelid because I've been adventuring for 2 years with this party,
Okay.
and this is just Tuesday.
Yeah.
This is just a Tuesday. All right, so you're like, well, that happened.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm just trying to track down like the captain of the guard or
Got it.
whatever.
Okay.
Celsic's like, well, at least I'm far away.
I'm not involved in this.
I can escape much more easily.
If this goes sideways, I'm out.
I'm out, yeah. All right, so I will come back to you. All right,
Can
what
I
are you...
leave through a window?
I mean, not without seeing the guards, but you could definitely do some of that. Okay, so now we have you sitting there or like on one knee. Urash, what are you doing?
Oh, good. I'm glad you came back to me before I thought of something I was going to say.
Apologize deeply.
Kininia, I apologize from the bottom of my heart. Could you find it within yourself to give me a second chance?
And she kind of stares back at you, and she says, "Well, I don't really know. I'm not sure, really." Seems right on the edge of tears.
Allow me to spend the evening in your company and try and earn your forgiveness.
And she kind of narrows her eyes, and she says, just us, you mean?
Yes, absolutely.
Make a persuasion check this time for me.
Oh, don't make me make checks that need charisma. I don't do things like.
Would you prefer an
charisma.
athletics check? I will.
No,
I will
No,
athletically.
I will athletics, acrobatics.
I'm sure. I'm sure you would.
Survival. Any level of strength or constitution-based skill, I will nail this in one roll.
If this keeps up, survival may be a very good
Why?
theory.
Why did I get given the bloody suit?
Athletics for kneeling. Yeah, he kneels like top-notch kneeling, like no doubt.
Like there is no bump on the floor. or
No,
anything.
no. I mean, like it was
More
just
like a professional
smooth.
lunge at this
Like
stage.
oh yeah, yeah.
Persuasion. You
Persuasion. Yes.
said. Persuasion. He said.
So-
This is going exactly how I thought it
So
would.
she just is like, I don't, and she kind of shakes her head
He's like,
repeatedly.
Nope.
I just can't, and she says, I can't forgive you. I'm sorry, but it's just very clear that you're not the person for me, Reginald. And she turns around, and begins to
Wait,
walk
Reginald?
off.
Oh, right?
And she turns back, she's like, well, yes, Reginald, obviously.
No, I'm Jonas.
You're who?
I'm Jonas. And then I've stood up and I'll take half a step towards her. And I'm assuming, are we still like really far away?
I wouldn't say really, but there's
I'd
definitely
like to stand nearer her so that like I'm not shouting across the room.
Are you not Mrs. Canada?
and she, or are you saying this to her?
Well, Canada,
I-
dark card.
Canada, but yes.
No,
dark
Canada, dark
card.
card.
It's not Can.
Yeah.
Look, just because you want to regularize everything and you're still trying to get over Sephiroth, there's no reason. Sephiroth.
We
So
got Sephiroth, we got Sauron, we got Canada.
Sauron in Canada. Yeah, it's my
So
it's
I'll
my it's
close-
my
I'll
very
close that.
unfortunate ploy just to bring in the Canadians. So she looks back at you and yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I will close the gap and I'll go, wait, if I'm not Reginald, then you aren't. And I'll leave it at that.
And she says, "Well, I mean, I thought you were, you look just like him, and I don't."
And you look just like. And I'll leave it at that.
And she says, and she kind of like waits, and then she sort of narrows her eyes. She's like, I I can't believe it. I guess
I straighten my suit a little bit, especially like brushing the dust off the knee. I go, Caninia Darkheart, was it? Lady Darkheart? I believe we have both made slight fools of ourselves.
She says, well, yes, I suppose that's true. I can't begin to tell you how sorry I am. I just thought that... And she just kind of says, I just remember the night so vividly there in the champagne room. There we were, you and I, together, staring at the paintings on the walls. You had such beautiful things to say about the artistic qualities of the following 3 painters that I loved. And she goes into this great detail about these things that you had supposedly said. And now I hear it wasn't you at all. And, well, now we'll never have that moment of art appreciation back with each other again. It's terribly sorry that I did that. I suppose I must, I'll just be on my way then, and I'll perhaps... And she kind of half stumbles sort of a little bit.
All is forgiven, all is good. We both made a mistake. I blame the wine, the family's like getting in the expensive stuff. I wouldn't worry about it. Go have some wine and some food, and we'll speak nothing more of this. Have a fantastic evening.
And she says, yes, I certainly will. Goodbye, Reg. No, not Reg. Whatever your name is. Yes. Oh, yes. Jonas. Yes. Thank you. And she sort of walks off in the crowd. You can see them sort of like nodding, smiling to each other, talking to each other. River is, as you've moved up now to the middle of the table, where you've now reached the hors d'oeuvres place. Now, most of the time, you get the impression that what you were supposed to do was start with the hors d'oeuvres, then go either left or right. You know how some tables, there's the same food on either side? You just started on one side, went all the way to the middle, and now you're working on part 2, like going the other direction, towards the chocolate swan. And so you're doing that, but I want you to make for me a perception check as you do that, and then I'm going to come to Celsig.
Yeah, okay.
I have food in my eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
I perceive food.
I perceive food. And you guys should expect I perceive food from me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Critically, you like all the food is ones and zeros. Just like, oh, you are the one.
Where were those rolls when I needed them?
Right. So you get the clear sense as you're sort of, chewing away at a turkey leg, which you get the impression was there sort of like as the backup food when other food had been taken, not just ripped off the turkey, which is more or less what you did. But as you're chewing it over, and the turkey leg is like twice the size of the small little hors d'oeuvre plate that you have underneath it, but you're still trying to hold it there. So as you're chewing and you're looking around, you can notice that on the other side of the room, towards the north side of the room, you notice that Zelron Roaringhorn is staring at Urash. You can see that he's actually just staring at him, and has been probably for a couple of minutes. Hasn't said anything, but he's definitely like peering at him.
Okay. Well, while nursing my turkey leg, I look at Urash, notice that he's not noticing that. Look at the guy, look back, think about it for a bit, and then go over to Urash and then point him out. I'm like, dude, that guy really likes looking at you.
Okay, so we'll have you say that in a minute, but as you're crossing the floor, I'm going to go to Celsig, because you're on the other side of the room, as you're crossing the floor. Celsig, you have managed to track down a person who seems to be an official sort of individual. You can see him kind of ordering several guards into positions at times, sort of nodding to other people. Every so often he calls a guard over and kind of whispers to them, and then the guard, heads off there. And you can see that he's looking around. He looks very alert, basically. So if you had to guess, this guy is either a higher up or he knows how to find the higher up, if you had to guess. And so he's there, speaking and looking around as you come up to him.
How do you do, sir? Am I right in assuming you are in charge of floor security this evening?
And he looks down at you. He's like, that would be an accurate assessment, but what may I do for you, my master? I'm afraid I'm rather busy at the moment.
How do you do? I'm going to need to check my own name now. I'm Gisles Raum. And I was sent over here in my professional capacity as security expert for Lord Roaringhorn, who would like assurances about tonight's security, and I've been sent over to find out what those plans are, to put his mind at rest, because we have been led to believe that there may be hints of an incident that may or may not occur.
And he kind of, his eyes sort of widen a little bit. He's like, Lord Zelron Roaringhorn has sent you to me to tell me that?
No, hang on, which one tells Jonas?
Jonas?
Yes, that's
oh.
Yes.
Oh, yes, the new one who was coming this evening. I see. Well, some of it, honestly, is, well, rather for private family concerns. And with all due respect to Lord Jonas Roaringhorn, he has not really been a member of the family here in Waterdeep, well, ever, quite frankly. None of us have ever seen him, and so, while I would be happy to give you details, I can only assure you that we have taken all possible precautions. I don't think you need worry about anything disrupting your client tonight.
That's understandable. Really, I know how it is, security and everything, and they never tell us the whole story. They just tell us to be aware for a thing, and then we have to plan for every eventuality. Really, he just wants to know what specific steps are being taken to protect the innocent people on the floor should something happen.
He says, I don't suppose you have any prior knowledge of something happening, do you, Master Rom?
Prior knowledge. Just trying to think now, hang on.
That's an excellent question, and I'll get back to you in just a minute.
Yes. I'm trying to think of any specific examples from what we've been doing. We have had to deal with several people who weren't all they appeared to be over the course of our journey down here.
Really? And he says, well, I mean, in Waterdeep, of course, you find many people who are different than what they purport to be. Have you heard any specific threats being made against Lord Zelron Roaringhorn?
We were advised on the way in that me specifically, in my capacity as a security expert, was given a bit of a tip that there might be something that will occur. Expected. Make
a deception check for me, please.
Okay. Oops.
I should be like, make an athletics check.
What? 9.
So he says, yes, well, I'm sure that's true, but unfortunately, our security measures are, you can understand, top secret. I'm sure you wouldn't give me all the details about how you keep safe your charge, nor would I expect you to. I'm sure you have
2 ogres for him once.
I'm sure you have many, many effective methods. His eyes kind of flicker up and down your money suit that you're wearing.
I'm also his accountant. I say noticing, then noticing.
Yes, I'm sure the books are always completely balanced.
We do have to partake in some very aggressive bookkeeping.
And he nods and he says, yes, well, unfortunately, though, I can't give you any extra information. Of course, if you happen to hear of anything, I would be most grateful to you if you could come to me and tell me any information you might have about potential threats. But at the moment, as you can see, we're all quite secure here. Many guards, many people enjoying themselves. I encourage you to do the same.
Very well, and like I say, as a professional courtesy, if I do hear of anything, I shall endeavour to let you know.
He said, I appreciate that very much. Enjoy the dance, sir, and best of luck to you in keeping your client secure.
I'll sort of try and fade into the crowd as best as my money suit will allow, but I want to try and actually observe the guards. Like, are they particularly on edge, like they genuinely believe something's going to happen?
Make an insight check for me.
Insight. Okay. Where are you hiding? There we go. 13.
Yeah, they're tense about something. Now, it's not clear to you, just based on the way that they're holding their weapons, the way they look to the left and right, you get the impression that they were basically told, like, be on the watch for something, but they don't seem to be focusing on anything or anyone in particular. They just seem, this is not the typical, oh man, I gotta work the New Year's ball shift, yawning or whatever. Like, these people are clearly focused on what they're doing, and they're spending a lot of time sort of looking around them carefully. And there are a number of people here. This would be a difficult room to keep secure if something were to happen.
Okay.
Are you and I should ask, so you know that they're on edge about something. Are you doing anything beyond just like looking at the guard? Like, what are you just heading back to the party?
I was just carefully observing while, like, in the crowd on my way back, really.
Just the guards.
I'm not trying to draw any attention, so I'm not doing anything overt.
Okay, but just the guards, though.
Just really the guards, yeah. I mean, Yeah, just the guards.
Okay. All right. You make your way back over, and as you do that, River is slightly ahead of you, getting back over to where Urash and Greta are standing. And now, River, you can talk to Urash about what it is that you thought.
Okay. I point out. Is it Zeltron? Lord Zeltron?
It is Zelron.
Zelron.
It's Lord Voltron, really.
Yeah,
and
it's Lord Voltron.
That's what it is. And he's gonna make an awesome lion robot, and that's awesome. No,
yeah, it'll be great.
It's Zelron.
I point at him, sort of, not very conspicuously. I say, that guy, he's been looking at you the whole time.
I will, without putting my hand on her arm, so like pulling the sleeve of her dress, pull her arm down so she's no longer pointing directly at Lord Zelron. Just like, thank you.
And I nod.
Also, where did you get
I've been
food?
very helpful, and I eat my turkey leg.
Wait, where did you get food?
Over there. Just pointing.
I look
I'm just
where the
pointing
food.
at everything.
Right, okay, cool. I look at the mess at the table where the food was.
Yeah, there's a few people kind of looking down rather forlornly at what remains of the 2/3 of the table. 1/3 is pretty much fine because she, left before she could do any more with that. And as you look over to see where she's pointing, you can see that Lord Zelron does seem to be taking an interest in you of some kind, Urash, or at least you and Greta. One of the two of you, not 100% clear, but they do seem to be looking at you.
Okay.
Did I also hear River's warning?
I assume so. You were right there, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just look over to him to see if I can find out whether he's staring at me or at Urash.
Okay, make a perception check for me. Okay, 18. Thank you for the follow, Def Mech. Welcome to the DRM free community. So as you look over, yeah, you're pretty sure that he's looking definitely at your group, but probably looking more at Urash than you. It seems to be that he's focused more on you.
Okay, I guess we will not get around introducing ourselves to the head guy.
And then right by your right shoulder, Greta, you hear someone say, "If you want, I could infiltrate the enemy at this point." And you look down and you actually see, like, kneeling right next to you is Kentabis Redbeard, who's, like, staring up at you, like, so he's, like, half height. And he just sort of waits. Very earnest expression.
Absolutely the last thing we needed.
Just say the word.
No, mate. The last thing we needed.
Yes!
What?
No! Don't put that on you!
What exactly
Go
is
sit in the corner.
word?
Say again.
What exactly is the word?
He said, "All you need to tell me is that I need to find more information. I will work from shadow to shadow and do what I can to gather the reconnaissance that we would need. I'll gather that information, bring it back to you. It'll be like a breath of smoke on the wind. With red hair, but otherwise exactly like a breath of smoke on the wind." Yes.
Yes. Could you please find out whether Reginald Roaringhorn is at this party?
Absolutely. Reginald Roaringhorn will soon be discovered. I will see it done. And then he literally
be secretive about it.
Always. This conversation never happened. And you can see he is kneeling, backing up on his knees. So he kind of bumps into a few people as he's backing up, blah, 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 blah. And then they sort of part ways around him. A couple of them look down at him, and then you see he kind of makes his way that way.
I expect him to go, "I was never here."
Oh, gosh.
Yep.
I'm not the dwarven monk that Waterdeep deserves, but I'm the... Okay, so now you can, if you wish, go over to greet them or do whatever it is that you like. At this point, Celsig, you arrive back just in time to see Greta and Urash and River kind of looking bemusedly off into the crowd. You don't know what they're staring at, but you arrive just in time to see that.
First thing I say, right, we absolutely need to avoid drawing attention to ourselves.
Well, that's a bit late.
Oh, what have you done?
You've met us, right? Like, you know how.
Yes, and I've never been more serious about anything we need to do,
This
which
is-
is improving my
This
life.
is either going to turn into a massive fight or a food fight. It's going to be one of the two. It's-
Yeah,
They're-
standing there with like
they're
all
either-
the food.
They are either looking for us, or we've walked into something where they're going to mistake us for another group.
So, look,
I see.
we know that there's at least another half orc in the Roaring Horn family, which is Reginald.
You have to assume,
So-
or a really ugly human. And I say that as a half orc. Like,
We have no humans in the group that you could that could take this the wrong way, so no problem. And so maybe Jonas Roaringhorn is actually an half orc.
mm,
So we might just be fine.
I don't think we're that lucky. I really don't. But you
Also,
never know.
Also, we know that that an estate is going to be distributed at a secret location.
Mm,
So maybe the Ring of Winter is among those things getting distributed there. So we need to find out where and when that happens. And yeah.
Is Jonas's aunt and uncle nearby?
Make a perception check for me. Let's see if you see them.
Uh,
Hello, Nico, instead. Thank you for the follow. There's a lot of people moving around, Urash. The last time you saw them, they were sort of moving off towards the general direction of Lord Zelron in the front, but you'd need to walk from your position. You don't see him immediately right here.
Okay. Do I see any other... Oh, how many people are here, actually?
Good couple of hundred, probably.
Oh, crap.
A lot of people.
Okay. So it's a little bit easier to blend into the crowd than I thought. I thought we were talking like maybe 100.
No, it's pretty big crowd. Like, as I think I mentioned, this is like the social event of the season. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah.
So
Okay, cool.
either that Soren guy over there staring at us because he thinks we are the bad guys wanting to disrupt the party, or he's staring at us because he wants us to come over.
Yep, that's very true. I think the Jonas's and an uncle went that way, and I'll kind of nod towards Lord Zelron. I think if we go that way, then if we find them, we can ask them a few more questions about the business, the estate. And if we don't, then we may be able to ask more influential people, or more influential people than like Caninia Darkheart. And you never know. One of them may have had one too many drinks. One of them may know where the Ring of Winter is, or a special trinket or piece of jewellery that has special significance. So, what do we think? Okay,
Maybe
cool.
you-
We're set up then. So I start walking towards Lord Zelron. Not like marching towards him.
As you, yeah, it's like marching towards him. Now the time has come. No,
Pushing people out.
right. Okay, so as you start moving towards him, the music stops for a minute, and you can see that there's sort of a hush that's fallen over the crowd. And you see Lord Zelron has actually gotten to his feet, and he's standing up looking at everyone. He has a beatific smile. Now that you're a little bit closer, you can see that he is a, as I mentioned before, he's sort of a gentleman, it seems, of some bearing and stature, but he actually looks a lot younger than you would expect. Now that you're actually closer to him, in fact, it looks like his wife is considerably older than he is, or at least appears to be. He looks fairly vibrant. And as he stands up, he says, "I am so pleased that all of you could join me on this day that celebrates the most spectacular accomplishment in the history of Waterdeep. Perhaps I am drawn by hyperbole, but although I know that we hold this particular dance every year, this one has a special place in my particular heart. For today, my friends, those of you who have come from a great distance, may not realize that we are also celebrating something else. It is a return to the fold of someone very dear to us, someone about whom we care a great deal. Someone who was, in fact, the son of my late departed sister. Yes, the son is finally here, and he holds out his hand. Jonas Roaringhorn. Now, he holds this out in your rough direction. And, Urash, as you do this, I would like you to make an insight check, please.
Okay.
Come on.
I'm really sorry, everyone. I'm really sorry, everyone.
Not really about all this.
I'm sorry.
You don't really know.
You'll be happy when I'm hitting things again. Don't worry.
Yeah, you don't really know what's going on with this, except that he seems to sort of pause a moment. Something about his look seems odd to you when he sort of looks at you, and then he says, "Yeah," and he says, "I am so pleased to welcome my nephew home to the estate." And he claps, and everyone else, oh, you know, everyone claps around you. And you can actually hear someone saying, clapping, "Oh yes, so happy he's back." And you look over and you can actually see Lady Canidia Darkheart kind of clapping sloppily, you know, over on one side of the room. And
I will just wave a bit because this is really awkward and I don't really know what to do.
yeah. So everyone kind of looks at you and claps, and Zelron says, "But of course, it would not be a great ball if we were not to honor our special guest with our dance of the season. This is, of course, the harvest dance, the dance that shows to us that food will again flow into our larders, and all will remain as prosperous as Waterdeep has made us. Since it is, of course, the tradition for the honored guest to be the one who does the first dance, I would like to ask my nephew Jonas to be the first one to lead us into the harvest dance. If you would, Jonas, dance for us with your," and he sort of stops for a moment and then sees River, "partner," and kind of puts, like, you know, just sort of puts his hand down at that point. Greta, as you're doing this, you sort of see, I'd like you to make a perception check for me, please. You can do this at +2.
I can do this at a +2. One moment. Perception. I've got +1, so I get +3. I'm on it. So 1d6 +3. Roll. There we go.
Okay. So you see... I don't know if anyone else heard the ominous crack of thunder when you made that roll.
I did.
That's pretty funny.
I heard that.
I was like, wow. So as you look over and you're sort of watching Zelron, you see from behind the chair where they're sitting. So I mentioned that there's like a dais, right? And the musicians and all that are up on the dais, and the chairs are there. And then you see, just like emerging from below the dais, you see first a shock of red hair, and then you see these eyes emerge just above the level of the dais, and kind of looks right, looks left, and then sinks again.
I'm trying to look very innocent. I've not seen anything. I'm fine.
Everything's fine. Okay.
This is fine. Everything's fine.
So they are making a big circle around you at this point, Urash, you and River. Urash, of course, River still has the turkey leg.
I should probably set that down, huh? All right. Well, I set down the turkey leg over by the buffet and then go over to Rush.
Okay.
You've practiced this. You've got this.
Indeed, I will draw upon my practiced skills, although I don't know what we did during practice because I wasn't there. Was it a slow dance? Was it a slow dance we did? Was it like just a spinning move? What did we do?
There were
This is me legitimately asking what we did.
I'll let the party answer what they did before I talk about it.
Okay.
You did a dance and then you threw her.
Into the air. I flipped
And then you
around.
caught her again.
Yeah. Basically. It was
think-
pretty, it was pretty
I think that was
I'm
was
going to play
the
to my strengths. I'm not going to lie.
I think that was the move they were talking about, like your special move. So you just do the standard autumn dance thing, and then you throw her and catch her. And I think she turned in the air several times.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is something akin to, if anybody's ever seen the Addams Family.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that.
Morticia
No,
and Gomez are dancing.
Yes.
In the Addams Family movie, yeah. So I'm going for that, and I will make as many strength and acrobatics checks as you want. There are going to be backflips. I'm armed. There could be knife throwing, all sorts of stuff.
It's going to be good stuff.
Let's do this. We're going to do this properly, all right? I'm
So-
talking full-on Addams Family dance.
So you begin to dance around with River as you are spinning around in place. Now, the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to ask for a couple of cases where I am not going to allow the two of you to consult with each other. What I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you at the same time to tell me the move that you were going to attempt. So you're starting by spinning around. So I'm basically going to ask both of you to tell me, and I'll give you a choice of the moves. You can do spins, you can do throws, you can do like ducks, where you actually push, like let the person down, you hold them while you bring them down to the floor and then bring them back up. You can do stuff like that, but you will not be able to know by you won't be able to be like, all right, now, it won't be something like that. So you're going to have to be tuned into each other. So
This is going to go so well.
as the music begins,
Sid Meier's Pirates.
as the
pen and
music,
paper.
yeah, okay, yeah, exactly. So as the music begins, I'm going to ask both River and Urash to think about what they want to do. Is it a spin? Is it a toss? And in your case, so basically, if you want to toss River, then River is like, I wish to be tossed. Like, that would be part of it. Like, you'd have to decide. In other words, you're not going to toss Urash.
I'm going to write mine down.
Yeah. So you could do that. Whatever you want to do.
River, Chai, if you can do this,
Yeah.
you can get pen and paper. This is going to make it far more interesting. So what are our options, right? So tell me the options.
You've got, listen, I mean, I don't want to prescribe them too much, but I'll give you some of the basics. You can spin, you can duck, which means sort of lowering the person to the ground. You can toss in the air. You can rotate with them, which is not spinning. Spinning means you take them and you spin them around. Rotate means you, rotate with them.
You dancing, rotating with them.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Like
Right.
normal dancing, yeah.
Lady in red. Exactly. That's it.
No, not Lady in Red again.
It's basically my senior prom, is more or less.
Oh my gosh.
So
All
spin,
right.
duck, toss, rotate. Those are our key ones,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I've got.
And now, I mean, also, I'm certainly willing to take thinking outside the box. So if you were able to do other things that works together, that's
Those
good.
are going to be our and don't forget, everyone, if you do happen to have inspiration on both Tasty Chai and myself.
And don't worry, because currently 86 people in chat and 200 people in the game are staring right at you too. So it should be fine.
That's good.
It should be okay.
We've done far more embarrassing things with far larger audiences.
Before you start doing this, I do want to ask Greta and Celsig what you were doing as these two were about to dance. What are you doing?
I'm
Okay,
keeping an eye on the guards because there's something off, and they're just gonna keep an eye on them. They're like my barometer that something's about to go down.
Okay. Greta?
I'm also I'm getting out of the way. And I think I'm trying to get closer to Lord Sorin, because if something interesting is going to happen, it will be there.
If
Okay.
anyone's got the ring, it's Lord Sauron.
Yes.
Oh man.
On purpose.
His name is literally Zelron.
Zelron.
Zelraun. He's only someone who makes Sephiroth, makes Zephyros into Sephiroth that comes.
No, everybody said Sauron. It was Sauron.
Everybody, after you said it 3 times, Sauron. Oh, she's keeping an eye on Sauron. Exactly, Poison. She's keeping a big red eye on Sauron. Okay. All right, so you're going to move close to them. Okay, let's go. So first order of business, chat. I really would like to know what you think. Have you written down your... Oh, no, I can't ask it this way. I'm just going to be curious to see what chat thinks is going to happen. So you decide, okay. Chat, what moves do you think they're going to do? And while you're answering that question, I'm going to allow Urash and River to show me at the same time their move. Although you have a question first.
Hang on, I need to know how many moves are we doing? Because I reckon the last 2 moves or so, chat should decide them.
You don't know.
think
Depends on
so.
how long the music lasts.
All right, cool.
Okay.
All of the above.
all of the moves. Okay, so I've chosen.
All right, here it is.
On the other side of this,
Oh, is it? I don't know if it's showing. Is it showing?
I see it. Okay. Both of
Is
you
mine
rotate. All right.
Yeah.
So both of you can make acrobatics checks at advantage. If you want to do dexterity, and if you have dexterity, if you don't have acrobatics, that's fine.
Acrobatics. I will not take the 9. I will take the 15.
That seems wise.
I decide not to take the 9.
I'll take the 12.
All right. So, you think you throw River into a bowl of punch and she'll be drunk and full of energy all night? Well, that's
Yeah.
more full of energy. You mean? Like, so, okay. So you rotate in place, and people are like, oh, yeah. They sort of whisper. They seem to be pleased with the initial movement as the musicians are playing. All right. Move number 2.
Move number 2. Move number 2.
Okay. I got it.
Wow. So you spin River around. Her tail flies, but again, you feel like this freedom as you're doing. You hear this, and I had the time of my life as you're like spinning around.
This is amazing.
And,
this is the arm wrestling contest all over again.
So and so now I need you to make again those acrobatics checks again at advantage.
Advantage. Acrobatics.
17.
Wow, 20. Okay.
Non-natural 20. Unless my other one is a natural 20, at which point I want to see you.
22. Okay, 17. So yeah, you spin her and she spins around. I like the idea of Geronimo's a spinning move, a lift. Shy releases her ice breath onto the chandelier and the frost drizzles onto the ground. That's great. So
Brilliant.
That'd be awesome.
That would be great.
Absolutely fantastic.
So you spin her around. She's really glittering. Just this vision of white and scales and ice as she spins around. And there's like, oh, it's beautiful. It's as if they're made for each other. You can tell they care for each other. You're like da 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 da. Okay, third move, please.
Okay. This is where it's gonna go horrible.
Yeah, this is where it's gonna go wrong. Okay.
Oh.
Okay, so you're both gonna make this time. You're both gonna make acrobatics checks, but they're gonna be at disadvantage this time.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, disadvantage meaning you'll have to take the lower result.
Yeah,
Oh,
roll
okay.
it twice, take the lower one.
10.
10. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a 10.
10 and a 10. Okay. So as you sort of so you kind of lift, and she goes back as you toss, and so she ends up doing this weird like sideways, like and manages to land on the ground without falling. You kind of hit hard, and there's kind of a like a kind of a like sort of an uneasy, awkward. I haven't seen that one before. I must be doing that out in the provinces, I think. Okay, before you do another one, Celsig, I'd like you to make a perception check. Actually, not perception, insight, please.
Insight. Wish I
I
had
like
good
really
perception.
want to consult while he's doing this, but I know you won't let us.
Nope.
No,
No.
we're so busted if we do this.
And Greta, you're getting closer to Lord Zelron, who seems very interested in the proceedings. Okay, 15. So, you notice that a couple of the guards, there's basically, like I said, like 12 guards. There's basically like 5 on one wall, 5 on the other. And you notice that 2 of the guards in the middle look particularly tense. They seem to be focused on a couple of people that are right near them. You can't see who they are, but that they're looking at. But they seem to be looking at 2 people, like not focusing on the dance, but focusing on whoever these 2 people are in front of them. They're across the room from you, though.
I'm gonna try and subtly make my way over, so not like blatantly walk across there.
Like
but
right across the dance floor.
you move out of someone's way here,
Got
turn
it.
to look at something, happen to step to the side, just work my way across like that.
Make a dexterity check for me. I'm gonna see how easily you're able to make it across.
16.
All right. So you start making your way across, kind of slipping in and out. Your height is helpful here, and of course your experience in this sort of thing. Okay. Number 4. Option number 4. The music seems to have reached not quite the climax yet, but it seems to be building up to a sort of bigger, more active part of the art of the music. So I need decisions.
Why'd you say that?
That was on
I'm
me, sorry.
rethinking. Dang it.
Now, Do I go for something I've already gone for, or do I go for something new?
Right?
All right, I'm gonna go for this one. I've got some good ones as well, not just the regular stuff.
Okay, I'm not creative.
Hey!
Hey, all right. So you come out of that landing and you sort of spin her upwards. Oh, actually, and I need you to make the acrobatics checks first. But you're doing this at advantage. Okay.
What do you want?
Like that. Might as well roll the other one just to see if you crit it. But wow, 221s. River, you had a 7. Okay, you also rolled a 7. Got it. So it's a 21. So yeah, so you do this beautiful spinning maneuver where you actually both spin. You do the thing where you like both sort of spin each other, where the hands are back over the head, and then spin again, and the crowd, oh, it's wonderful, wonderful, and they sort of are very, very impressed. Celsi, you're about halfway over to where you need to be. Greta, you're now near, fairly close. You probably can't get any closer because there's guards obviously right in front of where he's standing on the dais. Are you doing anything in particular, Greta?
I am going to have a very careful look around because I still think if something is going to happen, this is where it will happen.
Okay, make a perception check for me then.
Okay. I'm kind of the nosy priest.
And we love you for it.
I'm just looking for your soul.
Yeah. Excuse me, can I
Is
prove
it
you
bipart or tripart?
You're like, wow, there are a lot of people staring at Urash, and I really hope she doesn't fall. Oh, okay, that looks good.
That was close.
The only thing you notice for sure is that, again, Lord Zelron seems very, very focused on what they're doing. And seems to be, you can't tell who he's paying more attention to, but he's definitely got his eyes focused there. More so than the person who's next to him, the woman who's at the chair next to him. She's also looking, but she kind of looks around and is sort of like smiling as she sees other people. Like, Lord Roaringhorn is very much like, you know, wabam, like looking at them. Okay. So, numero 5. Senko.
And then we heard the chainsaw.
How's the music right now? Is it like the pinnacle, like it's really climaxing, or what's going on?
I would say that it is very close. In fact, as you're doing this.
Okay, cool.
Okay, good. I almost dropped my paper. Okay.
Are we going for something special?
I don't know.
What
is that? Axe throw?
Oh no.
Be tossed, axe throw, and catch.
Yep.
So
like, River's gonna like leap forward as Urash throws an axe.
Yep. I'm gonna juggle River and the axe at the same time.
well, so the catch. I assume you did not mean the cat, like her catching the axe, did you, or did you?
No, me.
Okay, so what you do is, this River wanted to be tossed, so you toss both the axe and River up into the air at the same time. So they go flying up, and it's like, oh, like everyone's kind of like, there's a Wilhelm scream somewhere, like everyone's just like, ah, like.
All I've got right now on YouTube in the background, I've got the Mamushka dance from Adam's Family. This is driving all of my decisions right now.
So the axe is sort of flying up in the air. And meanwhile, of course, River is spinning like up in the air. Okay, so I will need you to, I'm not going to do advantage or disadvantage here. I'm going to need you to just both make regular acrobatics checks.
Oh, God.
Well, let's see what, is that a 12?
Yeah, I got a 12.
All right. So,
10's not bad, right? No, 10's not bad.
Yeah, so the axe comes down and you're like, I'm waiting for it, gearing it up, waiting for it. Now you have a choice here. You can either, thank you for the follow, Hyper Hobbit. That sounds, I imagine that's what Celsius is going to be in a minute. So, all right, you have one of two choices. You realize that you're going to be able to catch the axe, or you're going to be able to catch River, but probably not both. So, which one do you want to catch, recognizing that if you don't catch the axe, you don't 100% know where it's going to land. You think it'll land on the floor? Like, safely, maybe? But, yeah.
I'm going to catch River.
Okay. So, I'm going to have you make an athletics check to catch River. River, I'm going to have you make an acrobatics check to see how you land. Okay.
I did a lot of 12s.
So you managed to catch her.
So well.
You managed to catch her and sort of stagger several like inches over and then fall to one knee as you hear this thunk like right by you, and you look over and you see the axe is just kind of like quivering like right there, like 3 inches from you, and then the crowd is like, oh, like, you know, clapping, like, you know, wonderful, wonderful, it's beautiful. Selsig, I need you to make, you're now all the way over to the guard. I need you to make a perception check for me.
I'm so glad we're not dead.
Okay.
I'm really pleased with this too.
17.
Selsig, you are almost positive that you see these 2 guards I mentioned that were looking. One of them seems to be drawing something like a small hand crossbow from underneath their cloak.
And what about the 2 people that they're looking at?
You don't see
Who
2
are
people
they?
that they're looking at.
Okay.
As you get close, you can actually say they weren't looking at anyone.
Right.
Both of them are drawing forward these crossbows.
Can I sort of bumble into them acting drunk?
You're not quite close enough to them to do that. You would have to run forward to do it. Like, you could be like, huh, like, you know, like drunk, like falling. You could try to do that, but you're going to need to make a check to do that. Yes.
I'll do that because I'll try and pass it off as being drunk regardless.
Make an acrobatics check for me.
Okay. 21.
All right. So you fall. You're both like, what do you? So as you fall into them, and they're drawing their crossbows. What are you saying? Anything like you?
I'm trying to just incoherent, drunken, burbling like.
Okay. One of them falls backwards, and with their left hand, which was holding the crossbow discharges and fires up into the ceiling and smashes into the chandelier, like this. And there's sort of a and you see sort of the tinkling of glass. And one of these, so the guy that you did that to is sort of kind of looks like kind of stunned. The other one looks back at you and kind of hisses and says, "Come on." And the only one who has really acted besides that is Lord Zelron, who points and says, "Those 2, right now, arrest both of them now." Now the 2 basically push you out of the way, Selsig, and are trying to book it towards the entrance. So I'm going to give you a chance to get 1 action off if you want, Selsig.
Right, I'm going to basically attempt to body check one of their legs, just grab them like, ah!
Okay,
I'm already lying down by their
that's
feet.
going to be acrobatics.
Okay.
Strength if you've got... No, sorry. Athletics, not acrobatics. Athletics or strength, if that doesn't work.
Either or, really. Come on, 6.
You're like, huh, and they kind of kick you off, like, pull, like your heel hits your mouth, like your chin. And you kind of hit the ground, and they head over towards, like, pushing, out of our way, and you can see the guards. There's sort of like there's a commotion. Urash and River, you now, and Greta, you now turn around, like Greta's facing this, so Greta can see them. Urash and River, you sort of turn around to see them. Are you going to try to do anything, or are you going to stay where you are?
So, how far away are these nice people?
They are pretty far from you, Greta, because they're on the other side of that cleared out space. They were sort of on the southern corner of the room, now trying to make their way to the middle of the 2 doors. The problem is you could reach them, but there's a lot of people in between you and them.
I don't care. Give me a number.
Oh, what do you mean? Number for distance?
Yes, please.
150 feet?
Ah, that's a bit too much. Okay. How quickly can I cross 30 feet?
You tell me. Do you wanna your normal speed is what, 25?
I don't know. I usually don't have to run.
This is a good time to find out. Now the good news is that there is a cleared out space where they were just dancing.
I never put my speed in. I don't know.
Okay, we got to make sure that we'll do that for next time. But for now, it's probably 25 is my guess. So you can get at least 25 feet from here. You could probably get enough 5 feet that you could get within like. You could probably get close if you were sort of booking it. Why? What do you want to do?
I want to get close and cast a guiding bolt on them.
Okay, which one? There's 2 of them.
Because that will not hit anybody else because it's a guiding bolt.
Okay, there's 2 of them.
So that's very nice.
Which one of them do you want to hit? Though there's one who's like the one who fired the crossbow that went off, or the one who didn't.
The one who didn't.
Didn't. Okay, go ahead and make an attack on them then. Because it's ranged attack, right? Ranged spell.
Let
Guiding
me
bolt
have a
should be.
look. Outbook attack, spell attack, ranged.
Okay. Go ahead and make your attack.
Okay, I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm on it. How do I even make it? Scroll, core, and where is the ranged attack button?
It should
I
be
want
on
the
the
button
sheet.
for this.
Should be on the
String.
sheet, I think.
Yes, I'm completely on the sheet.
All right, let me find it.
Can I wait? I just click on this. Something should happen.
Guiding bolt.
There, something rolled.
Something did happen. Unfortunately, an 8 is not going to do it. So, goes flying past you. Some people kind of, as they see, but it misses them. Orash and River, what about you?
So, just before we decide what we're going to do, what we have seen is a commotion has happened, a crossbow bolt has gone off, there's been some smashing of glass, and Lord Zelron has said those two, indicating the two people with crossbows, or the two people, one of which had crossbows.
Correct, who
The
look
rest
like
no.
guards. That's correct.
Who look like guards, and then now those two people are booking it for the exit.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yep, you
Okay.
got that right.
And they are roughly 150 feet away.
Well, from you, they're closer. Probably from you, they're about 110 feet or so, because you're in the middle of that circle, remember. So, maybe 100 feet, maybe.
I can't do anything with that.
You don't want to be a spear, do you?
I don't have anything. We don't have anything.
No, you don't want to be a spear, do you?
Oh, I could be a spear? Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have a throwing river equipped. Remember, there are other people in the room.
I can throw her
I
over
could be
them,
a
though,
spear.
right?
I wouldn't mind.
Okay.
Like, if I were to throw you near them, could you do something to them? Or just, like, because I can run really fast. I can run like 80 feet sprinting. So I'd clear it in like a turn if this is going to go to combat.
He's going to use
The
her as
only
a
thing that
ram.
I have is a cone of cold. That's my breath thing. Because I don't have like any weapons or anything else.
Your choice, unless I'm assuming there's no furniture nearby that I can chuck at them to try and slow them down.
Yeah.
No, there's the space in the middle where you are is cleared off. What you have an abundance of are people that you could chuck.
And a dragonborn.
Right.
Unless I try and shout at them and intimidate them.
That's also an option.
You are very
So-
intimidating.
River,
Especially
do you
after
want
that
to be? Do you want to be a spear, or do you want to do your own action?
I could be a spear. It doesn't really matter to me. I will adapt.
But if
Okay,
you're
I'll-
what will happen if they're intimidated? Will they run away?
Don't know. Depends on what he says to intimidate them, basically. You know, if he says like
Stop or
"get
I'll
out and
throw a
never come back,"
dragonborn
or
at you.
Yeah. The dragon roller.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. No, I will. I'll try an intimidation roll. I will shout stop, or I'll throw a dragonborn at you.
Okay.
Of course.
I go 17.
All right. Let's see if they buy into having a dragonborn thrown at them. Let's see.
And I mean it.
I bet you
I'm not joking.
I'm not joking.
Tell you right
I will
now,
count
mister.
to 3. I will count to 3. 1.
Okay. They kind of look back at you, and then their eyes widen as they see you reaching
2.
over for this dragonborn in a dress, kind of staring.
2 and a half.
And they hesitate is what they do, and stop long enough for the guard that you were talking to before, Selsig, the captain of the guard, to come up and sort of grab a, "Here, my lad, that'll be enough of that." And the other one's like, "Oh, let me go, you!" And then like 3 more guards surround the other one and grab both of them and says, "I won't be letting you go until the time has come. Right now I'm going to let you go into the jail cell right below the house. Let's go!" And he sort of bustles them off, and the crowd breaks into applause. And you see servants are already trying to sweep away the glass and stuff like that that's in the middle. And as the music begins to start in a somewhat slower key, you are all sort of looking at them when behind you, Urash, you hear the sound of someone saying something to you, and it says, "So, Jonas Roaringhorn, I'm glad to see that you've inherited some of the family tradition of noise. Thank you for solving that situation. But I think it's time that we chatted, you and I. Don't you? You haven't
And I
turned yet.
turn around.
And you see that it is Lord Zelron Roaringhorn who is staring at you. Now that you're up close, you can see that, as I said, he looks a little bit younger than his demeanor would seem to suggest. His demeanor suggests sort of almost a grizzled veteran, but he doesn't look like that. I mean, he looks like he's in his 30s, maybe. And he says, yes, I see that it is important that we have a long discussion, you and I. Perhaps we can escape to one of the side rooms there with you and the rest of your party, your contingent. And may I say, you dance divinely, my dear. Almost, someone might say, in an inspired fashion. And he sort of gives you a half smile, River.
Aww. I don't say anything. I'm clearly flustered and flattered, and so I blush. I just...
Okay. And he waits to hear what you have to say, Rush.
I agree completely. It's time we had a long overdue chat, Uncle.
And he nods. You think maybe you see his mouth sort of quirk up at the use of the term uncle, but he nods and he turns to the crowd and he says, "My friends, it is time that I had a chance to speak to the man of the hour here, the hero of this ball. You can see why we made him our honored guest. Once a roaring horn, always a roaring horn. But I must speak to the return of the prodigal son, or in this case, the prodigal nephew. Please take no notice of the disruption which just happened. Enjoy yourselves. There is a great deal of food." And then his voice kind of trails off as he looks over and he realizes that the table is not actually quite as full of food as he thought. And he says, "There will be more food in just a moment." And you see servants like bustling out the back now, like going to get more food. And he says, "In the meantime, enjoy yourselves." And he smiles and nods. And then he says to you quietly, "And if you would gather the rest of your party, I believe we all have some things to discuss."
Indeed, I look over to Greta and Selsig, who I assume, given the fact that this guy's just announced that he's met me and he wants to have a chat with me, then I'm looking over and I'll kind of motion for them to come with.
Okay. Do you all do that?
Yep.
Okay.
I might be strutting slightly over saving Lord Roaringhorn's life.
No big deal.
I don't know who the target was, but...
Right. Okay, so you follow him into a side room, basically, where in here the music is quieter, sort of muffled by the door outside. And he brings you into this room. There is, it's a fairly warm room, actually. And you can see that there are chairs around that are like, there's maybe like several armchairs and like a sofa back there and things like that.
Sorry. I have retrieved my axe.
Oh, okay. So you picked up your axe, like, which made this big dent in the floor. And the servant's like...
We'll, of course, Uncle, we'll be right there.
It's like a big divot in a golf course. Like, he's just studiously avoiding looking down at the, like, yes, certainly, at the hole in the floor. Okay, so you position the chairs and couches and all that stuff. There's a lot of things around there. And then there is a large armchair, clearly for him, and he sort of settles down in it, and then he indicates, "Please." And there's sofa with room for you. There's also different chairs. You guys could position yourselves wherever you like.
I shall firstly probably remove my jacket, because I don't know what's going to happen if I sit down in this, and then make myself more comfortable.
Okay. So you sit down. The rest of you...
Also sit down?
Okay. So for a chair.
Yeah, go for a chair, yes.
All right.
The
Greta?
chair is a mimic.
Greta Selsig. The whole room is a mimic.
So, how many chairs are there?
There's like at least 6 and a couple sofas.
Do we recognize any of these chairs from our previous adventures?
No.
Okay.
You see one that says the Great Chair of Justice. No, it's just not. Not so much.
Okay.
I'm going to bounce onto a sofa.
Okay.
Because I got kicked in the chin and threw myself on the ground.
You sink in a lot farther than you thought, Selsig. You're like, oh, like, yeah, basically.
I remain standing.
Okay. And so he sits back, relaxed, and smiles, and he says, "Well, I certainly must say that when I expected my nephew to arrive, I didn't expect him to arrive in quite this fashion. Nor did I expect that the very human child that I played with when I was younger would end up having somehow magically turned into a half-orc when he became an adult. Which leads me to the question, who exactly are you? I believe I have you to thank for having thwarted some attack upon me, but it's also possible that that was perhaps coordinated. So, if you'll forgive my suspicion, what are you doing here, assuming that you're not actually my nephew?
We are looking for a particular object, and somebody who knew that we were looking for that gave us an invitation to this ball, and we decided to find out whether we can find a trace here.
And he nods. He said, "Really? Someone gave you an invitation? I was not informed. Who was this person, if you don't mind my asking?"
We don't know. We only have a vague description. So we'll dispense with the cloak and dagger routine. My name is Urash. I'm not your nephew. I'm not related to your family in any way, shape, or form. This party is merely a means to an end, if you will. We mean nobody here any harm. We are just, as my companion said, looking for a specific object that we believe has significance in our, if I may say, quite noble quest as adventurers.
Noble. Really?
Indeed, noble quest. All about the nobility right now. And so we're here to find out more information about it. We saw an opportunity to gather information, and we took it. So I apologize for presenting myself as your nephew when I'm not. I mean, no disrespect. We're just here to find out some information.
And he sort of looks, he says, "Very well." And he looks at you, Selsig, and he says, "So, Urash, and that means that you are not, what was it I heard, a security consultant and accountant?"
Oh, I totally am.
His eyes open, like his eyebrow rises a little bit.
I managed to thwart the assassins, did I not? My trained eyes picked them out of the crowd.
And he smiles and he says, Yes, I suppose you did. And I have you to thank, I suppose, for at least revealing the deception. It was clear to us there was going to be an attack at some point, but we didn't know from whom. And he looks back, and he looks back at Urash, and then he looks to you, River, and he says, "And as for you, you seem to have an interest in both dancing and food, from what I can tell. Is that also part of this cover?" I believe you're muted, my dear. I see your lips moving, but... Oh, yes.
Oh, is it working now?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Cover who?
And he
and I just put in, I'm just like, no, that's her.
He says, really? He says, I suppose. And this noble quest, you'll pardon my asking, but who is it that's sponsoring you in it? Nobility, after all, is in the eye of the beholder. I imagine those fellows in there thought they had their own reasons, perfectly noble ones perhaps, for wanting to assassinate whoever it was they were aiming at, perhaps me. Who exactly is sponsoring you in this little endeavor?
No one. We're trying to save the world. We're what you call crowdfunded adventurers.
We sponsor ourselves.
And we're running out of funds.
He says,
"Please go to our Patreon scroll."
Please go to Punch Starter, where so he smiles and he says, "Saving the world, really? It seems like an odd thing to do, to come dress up in a fancy ball, all so that you can find your way to speak to me, just to save the world. How exactly could I help you in this effort?"
Someone went out of their way to make sure we got this invitation.
Who was this person? You said she only had a slight description. Who was the description?
I'll offer the description. and say that this description was given in Bryn Shander.
And he sort of he says, "Bryn Shander? Really?" And he smiles and he says, "Well, I suppose that makes some sense. And then he says, and do I have any proof that you are working for noble causes? Any sign of affiliations, perhaps?
Oh god, no, really, no.
I have my symbol of Tempest. That's pretty much all we've got on us at the moment. Like, I don't know if we've got any other sign of affiliations. I know.
That's actually true. I don't think we do.
I've got nothing I would show polite company.
We've got,
Most of them would probably get us thrown in jail, the amount of stuff I've nicked.
we've got something that shows that we belong to a band of total lunatics.
Well, we don't have that with us.
Do we?
I'm pretty
Yes,
sure
we
we left
do.
our Harper.
We're honorary members and got the little brooch thing.
Oh, did we actually get
Did we?
that?
I didn't think we got the
Yes.
pens.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, you got those members, yes. But you do. But River's quite right that I believe you'd said you were leaving them.
I don't
at
have them with me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I literally
With me.
Tux, watch, axe, symbol of Tempest.
That was it.
That's-
Okay. So he says, "I see. So you have brooches, you say? Are these harp brooches?"
They
Do
might
you
be.
have one too?
He leans forward. He says, "Why would you say that, my dear?"
Oh, you just seem nice. Nice people usually have those.
You know, if you go around trusting people like that, you could find yourself in trouble. There are a lot of bad people who mean bad things. What if I pretended I was part of this group that uses these harp brooches? I could cause you problems, couldn't I?
That would make you a bad man, and then I'd have to eat your face.
He smiles. He's like, "So my information suggested." And he throws back his side, and you see that he is, in fact, wearing a harper brooch. And he says, "I am indeed pleased you've come to see me, my friends. I had heard rumors that you were in town, but apparently some friends of mine in Bryn Shander were keeping, perhaps, watch. There are, well, people in Bryn Shander who are not what they appear to be, and some of them, of course, work for the Harpers also. So, now I know who you are, or who you say you are, and I am most grateful that you've disrupted this attack. But you didn't come for that reason. You said you came searching for an artifact. What artifact exactly?"
The Ring of Winter.
And he raises an eyebrow and settles back in his chair. "The Ring of Winter. Indeed. But why would I have this magical artifact?"
Maybe not you, but what about the estate that is going to be settled?
He says, "The estate, of course, to which you're referring is my dear Jonas's mother, my sister. She died, unfortunately, after a long and rather painful illness. Her estate is rather considerable, though she lives a number of miles outside the city of Waterdeep. And there are some people at this party, no doubt, who are waiting to hear the details of that. But the truth is that this ball would have gone on anyway, because I was trying to draw people out. I don't have the Ring of Winter, but I imagine that you know someone who does."
Artist Simber?
And he nods. "Yes, Artist Simber." Now I should point out, by the way, that as you've been looking around the room, so you've got the chairs, you got the sofa that I mentioned, and he's got several little end tables that have what look like pitchers of maybe water or wine. You can't really see what's inside them. But there's also, along the back, there are several suits of armor as well. And as he sort of leans back, he looks at one of them and then looks forward and says, Yes, Artis. A person that I cared about deeply. A person who himself has a great deal to recommend himself to both me and the Harpers organization. Artis, you see, is himself a Harper. And yet, neither the Harpers nor me have heard or seen anything from Hardis in several months. He did come here once, though.
Well, the same goes for his son. Also looking for him.
His son. Sirac, you mean?
Yes.
And he says, how is he?
Troubled.
I don't blame him. I haven't seen an artist for several months. He did come to me some time ago and said that he was going to be out of contact for a while. He said he had information that was too dangerous to share even with the larger Harper structure. We have been very close friends, Artis and I, for many years. And he told me that it had to do with ancient artifacts, deadly prophecies, and things that I shouldn't ask questions about. And then he smiles. He says, that was the joke we used to have when we were children. Ancient artifacts, deadly prophecies, things we shouldn't talk about, or some version of that was how we always talked about something that we ended up doing anyway. And Artis, I think, did the same thing. I tried to insist that I go with him, but he absolutely refused. I still was planning to, but he snuck out in the middle of the night. I have heard nothing from him since. But I can tell you that if Artis Cimber has found the Ring of Winter, then he and the rest of the Sword Coast are in some considerable danger. But I cannot tell you where he is, for I have not been able to find him myself. I've used even scrying magic, and yet there is some strange block or concealment over him. I can't imagine that he would, of his own free will, avoid divination magic from his friends. And yet, it is what it is. He is overdue to check in, and none of his friends have heard from him.
Why would you think the Sword Coast is in danger if Artis Cimber has the Ring of Winter?
Because the Ring of Winter does not wish to stay with one master. The giants are called to it, for one thing, and there is something which has disrupted them and thrown them off badly. So long as he possesses that ring, they will be drawn to it like moths to a flame. The difference is that it is all of us who will burn instead of the moth.
This is the quest that we are on. Now you can understand why our quest is of the highest importance. Do you have any idea where Artis was headed? Did he give any indication? Did he leave anything here?
He says, not entirely, and he kind of furrows his brow, although there was something. And he goes over, stands up, and he goes to one of the side tables. You can see there's a little book there next to one of the suits of armor. And he picks up the book, and inside it, he opens it up. It looks like a journal that has many folded pieces of paper. And he takes out one, and he unfolds it carefully, and he hands it to you, Rush.
Okay, I unfold the paper.
Inside, there is just a single word written on it. And the word is Harshnag.
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 As it sounds.
Yes, and it's a capital H. He says, I found this. I told you he snuck out in the middle of the night. I found this waiting on my desk in my office. How it even got into my office without my guards noticing, and then him getting out of the house without them noticing, is not a reflection of my guards, but Artis's unique talent. He has a good way of not being found when he doesn't want to be. And he holds and he points at the paper. I have done everything I can to discover what this is, but whether it's a place, or a person, or a demon, or a spell, none of us have been able to determine. All I know is that since I received this piece of paper, Artis has been apparently dead to the world for the last 2.5 months.
Is it like one word, Harshnag?
Harshnag, yep. Harshnag.
I wrote down backwards, still doesn't mean anything.
No, I did that as well.
Nash Rug.
yeah. Gansra. Well.
Oh, damn it.
That's exactly what I thought.
Upside down, is it?
Yeah, hang on. That's a good point.
Okay,
No, not really.
Well, maybe my character knows more than I do. I stare at this word and I try to rack my mind if I know anything about Harshnag.
Do you want to do sort of historical or like a religious thing? What's your sort of?
Well, my thing is religion, so I would. Wait, no. Well, let's do history. I'm gonna try a history
Okay,
check.
let's do a history check.
Maybe I know something.
Okay.
I clicked on it. Something should happen.
Yeah, you guys.
Yes, it worked. Yes.
A 19. Yeah, in fact, you think you have heard of this, but what you've heard is mostly rumor and uncertainty. So, Harshnag, you remember having heard stories about Harshnag being a member of a notoriously destructive adventuring company that saved several cities along the Sword Coast. The name of the company was Force Grey. And Force Grey was well known for being kind of like, out of character for a moment, like the Avengers. And if you saw Civil War, like the Avengers at the beginning, where they sort of, things happen and then they do the best, but like there's a lot of collateral damage when they leave. And so they basically have come to save places like Waterdeep or Neverwinter in the past, but there's always sort of a lot of destruction. Not so much that they cause, but just like there's always big fights, basically, where Force Grey is. And you remember having heard stories of Harshnag being one of the members of that adventuring company. However, what it actually is, a tiny imp, a dragon, a human, a dwarf, a halfling, a dragonborn, a demon, a tiefling, you have no idea, because the stories vary wildly on this point. Some say that he has a sort of fierce axe that destroys legions with every swing, and then some people say that he's incredibly stealthy and subtle, and he can stab you in the back and rob you of your purse before you know that someone's there, etc., etc. But there are multiple stories, and not all of them positive. There are some that are uncomfortable with him, or her, or whoever this thing is, because of their reputation as part of this Force Grey. But again, the sort of general context you've always felt is that Force Grey has always kind of done good, but some people are suspicious because whenever they show up, it's like in the Lord of the Rings, Gandalf Stormcrow, right? Where like every time they show up, like bad things happen afterwards, even if it's not their fault. Like they always seem to be the vanguard of bad luck that comes about. So that's what you know of that name.
So if
They
we
didn't have a
basically
war form.
bump into them, the world will explode.
So,
So to speak.
so I'm giving this information, but so Harshnag is one person or many? That's something we don't know.
You don't know for sure, but you because the stories differ. Some of them say groups, some of them say one.
How old are these stories?
Oh, many of them go back 20, 30 years or more. Yep.
Oh, okay.
think of his
It
own
could have been
lifetime.
thousands of years. So like
No,
like a
not
legend or
thousands,
like
but
a legend or something.
Yeah, no, not thousands of years, but definitely, decades though.
Okay, so I passed that on.
Okay. And he says, interesting. Yes, I wondered a little bit myself about the Force Grey connection. They were, I think, good people for the most part. Unorthodox in their methods, but they were fighting unorthodox things. However, it's never been clear what Harshnag actually was, if this is the same one. And certainly my other operatives and servants have found nothing, nor has the Harper Network.
Well, but apparently Artis Simber found out more. So maybe the next thing is for us to find Harshnag, whoever he, she, they may be. Do you have any idea where he went to? Or where he was? Or anything?
He says, well, where he was, he had come from Bryn Shander to see me. Where he went to, though, he shrugs. It's almost impossible to determine where Artis is if he doesn't want to be found. If I were him, I would have gone into the center of the Sword Coast. I would have headed east from here. But truthfully, that would have been one of many things he could have done. He could all easily have gone south on the tradeway, gone into one of the larger cities, headed north up to Neverwinter. He disappeared, and I haven't been able to track him down since. I am somewhat concerned, though. Yes, he's disappeared before, but generally he's left some sign or message, not vanished off the face of the earth, as he seems to have here.
So, in the stories, is this Harshnag a good group of people or a bad group or?
Force Grey, you mean?
No, but Harshnag. Harshnag is a member of Force Grey,
Yes,
right?
maybe, if
Maybe.
we're right. And it depends on who you ask. Most people believe that Force Grey is for the good, and I believe this as well. I actually had a chance to see some of their handiwork, though I've never met them directly. However, they do leave a rather big circle of goodness in their wake, if you follow what I mean. They have a rather outsized presence when they arrive.
I look at my companions, look like finding Force Grey and Harshnag is the next step we have to do. Let's look for a legend.
He smiles and he says, "Indeed, I think looking for a legend is well worth it. Before you go, though, he said, I think there are some things that I might be able to help with. And he pulls forth... Hold on one second. He pulls forth from his pocket a small silver key. And he goes up to the same suit of armor that I mentioned before was like the same suit of armor that was standing by the wall by the books that he went over to look at, the book there. And he goes over to it and he taps twice on the armor. And you were all rather shocked when suddenly the armor lowers its head and moves forward into the middle of the room and turns and waits. And behind the suit of armor is what looks like a small door with a keyhole. That silver key puts in the key and turns it and opens it up. And it leads to a small, I wouldn't say a crawl space, but a rather larger, like stowaway space. And he rummages about and he pulls out from the space what looks like a saddle. He turns around and he says, have any of you had occasion to use horses so far?
I've got a pony.
And he says, and have any of you ever had difficulty with being thrown from that horse or pony?
Salsic was thrown.
Yes, yeah, why not?
No, and I was thrown at a pony. Different matter.
This is true. But please continue.
He says, this was something handed down by my father to me, and when I got old enough to understand its value, I realized that having it molder away in a safe was of little use. I don't get a chance to ride very much anymore, but I think you'll find this of value. And as he hands it over, one of you can take it. If you want it to be you, Greta, you can certainly take it. It is a dark kind of leather, and you can see that there seem to be runic symbols kind of inscribed into the outside of it. It's very, very light, extremely light, and it looks sort of like both strong and flexible. Like leather is usually heavier than this. And he hands it to you and he says, this is called the Saddle of the Cavalier. If you place this upon your horse, you will not be able to be thrown from it, and certainly not against your will. Moreover, anyone who attempts to attack you while on the mount will have some difficulty. You will be more gifted in riding a horse than you would ever have thought possible whilst you were on this saddle. And the sort of mechanical effect of this, Greta, is that you cannot be dismounted against your will if you're conscious, and attack rolls against your mount have disadvantage. Now, that's not attack rolls against you, but attack rolls against your mount.
Oh, so this protects my pony.
Yep. While you're riding it, anyway. I know. Well, actually, no. I mean, not even. Yeah, just while it's on there. Yep.
I look at the others. Anybody interested?
Well, none of us. Yeah, you're the only one with a
Yeah. I think this will suit my pony.
Horse.
It will look very good on my pony. Thank you very much.
I had a draft horse, but it's long since lost somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
He says, it is my pleasure, but I could not let the rest of you go away empty-handed. And he reaches back into the stowaway space, and he pulls out a vial of dark blue liquid. And he says, do any of you have occasion to do some swimming?
Yeah, why not?
Salsic sometimes swims.
He says, well, if you wish to be able to swim without having difficulty in it, I think you might enjoy this. This is a potion of water breathing. Drink this and you'll be able to breathe underwater for 1 hour after drinking it. I warn you, though, it smells a little bit of the sea, and breathing in air will be somewhat difficult while you have the accoutrements this provides you. Gills, specifically. And so he holds it out clearly for one of you to take.
Murbarian.
Murbarian. Just being dropped into a lake count. Yeah, well, see, I like you. That's the kind of callbacks that I like to see.
Well, go ahead, Celsic. You can have it.
I guess we'll keep that as like a communal one, as and when it's needed.
Yeah, I don't think it matters who takes this stuff. Do you know what I mean?
I'll keep track of that one then.
Okay.
He says,
Just while he's doing this, I'm playing with the watch.
okay.
Just like I'm just twiddling with. I'm not opening it or anything like that. I'm just playing with the watch.
Okay.
Because I'm just chilling out on the couch.
Okay. I'm going to come back to that. So
Okay.
he pulls out from the stowaway space another potion, which seems to be transparent, clear. And he holds it up and he says, and has anyone here had any interest in perhaps some strength if you're going to fight against the giants?
Me.
He says, and he hands it over to you.
Thank you very much.
It's a potion of hill giant strength. So what that means is that this actually means that you will have a strength of 21 effectively while you have this. And your strength score is like this for 1 hour.
Yeah, she could punch a dragon.
Mm-hmm. And then he says, and finally, and he reaches back and pulls out one more little vial, which he holds up. In a minute, he holds it up as soon as he gets the description. Right. Which he holds up. This is a small little vial, and it looks to be completely empty. Like there seems to be nothing in it. And it's much smaller. Doesn't have any liquids in it that you can tell. It doesn't seem to have anything in it. And he says, and perhaps some of you would be happy with nothing for a gift.
I just, because I'm the only one who hasn't taken anything, I just drop my eyes and get all sad and then stick my hand out.
And so he puts it gently in your hand and he says, I would be careful, my dear. If you don't pay close attention, you may find yourself vanishing on your friends when you least expect it. This is dust of disappearance, my dear. When you throw this dust into the air, you and each creature and object close to you will become completely invisible.
Swapsies?
All I'm thinking is an invisible hill giant strength Merbarian right now.
Basically, you just become Schwarzenegger with gills. Like,
Yeah.
basically, it's just what it is.
Who has a really awesome pony.
Yeah.
Yes. So he hands that to you, this dust of disappearance. And he says, these are 4 small tokens, but I hope they will be of some aid to you as you move forward. I am grateful that you've disrupted this threat, and I must tell you that I was concerned for some time that you might be that threat. In fact, I spent a great deal of time focusing on the 2 of you during your dance for precisely that reason. And yet something told me that you were not that way, that there was something more to what I was seeing. If I had to guess, the ones that left probably had planned something, having no awareness that you were going to crash the party, as it were. But then I would have no problem doing the same thing to any of the Zentarim, because I am convinced that they are the ones who have attempted to disrupt everything we are doing here. It is to their benefit that they can allow the giants to run roughshod, create more chaos, and no one stands to benefit more than the Zentarim, who will sell weapons to all sides, stoke fear and chaos, and steal whatever is not nailed down when people are looking the other way. However, it appears to me that you've disrupted the Zentarim with great skill. Perhaps you've dealt with them before?
Of a fashion.
We've had some dealings with their ilk.
He says, very well. I can also offer you some advice. Given what it is that's happened here, and the fact that you've made yourself rather, well, visible now, my suggestion would be that you get out of Waterdeep as soon as you can. If you want to hunt down this Harshnag, I'm happy to give you ponies or horses, whatever you need, and to give you supplies, resources, rations. But if you stay in the city, my guess is that you will only attract more unwanted attention. Moreover, I cannot lead and try to pursue these people, including my friend Artis. I have other obligations here, and if the Zentarim are trying to make a play for this city, I cannot allow them to establish a foothold.
I think we will be leaving soon.
Okay, yep, that sounds good. I have a quick question.
Certainly.
So the description of the person we gave you from Brinchanda, did that ring any bells? Because we thought it may have been a member of the Zentarim originally, because we have had dealings with them in the past.
He says,
now that you said that the Zentarim, you're convinced that the Zentarim attacked you, then we no longer think that. So maybe it's someone who's working against the Zentarim. So it could potentially be a member of the Harpers who have pushed us, associate Harpers, into your path, full-blown Harper.
He says, let me ask you, who did you meet while you were in Bryn Shander?
Those gang members.
Yeah, gang members. We met. Was it Bryn Shander? That was the town where I nearly got killed, wasn't it, Druthi?
And
Was
yeah.
it?
So.
Oh, so
I'm sure
I'm sorry. I mixed up
it was
towns.
one of the
sorry,
10
sorry.
towns.
I mixed up towns. Sorry.
And he
Yeah, because you guys met people. You guys went around, met people, went to the bar and stuff while I was unconscious.
Yeah.
Not to sound callous, but you just went drinking while I was dead. But
Oh, I'm sad I missed this.
it was Markham Southwell. I've forgotten their names. I've completely forgotten the names of the people we met in Bryn Shander.
He smiles and he says, well, the one I'm thinking about might have escaped your notice. In fact, she spends most of her time outdoors when she can. And he kind of grins at all of you. Did she sound anything like this? And his voice startlingly changes, just like almost sort of creepily, like just completely makes the accent is different, like the refined noble drops away. And he sort of looks at all of you.
I knew it.
He said, it wasn't me, but I know her very well. Her name is Beldora.
I knew it.
And she works for the Harpers. My guess is she is the one who sent you to me. He says, I see you've had dealings with us before. You must forgive our rather unorthodox methods, but we do seem to have some effective ways of communicating with each other. He smiles as he sees your nod and you're shaking your head, and he says, or perhaps not. It's an acquired taste. But my friends, if I can, and then you hear this doof, 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 on the door. He says, what on earth? And he stands up and he says, all of you get ready. I don't know what this is. And he calls outside the door. Do you guys do anything?
I put the watch back in my pocket.
Got my weapons with me, so...
I ready a spell.
Okay.
yeah, ready a spell.
Orash, by the way, we'll come back to this, but when you put the watch back in your pocket, remember I mentioned that banging? You had felt the watch vibrating. But you don't have time to think about it. Just we'll come back to it later. So he comes over to the door and he says, yes? And there's just silence on the other side. And he puts a finger to his lips, turns around to all of you, puts a finger to his lips. And then suddenly he pulls open the door and leaping through, prepared, and he stops and he stares. And as he looks around, you see a familiar sight of someone looking around and saying, I wanted to tell you that there's no Reginald Roaringhorn here, just so you know. And as he stares at Cantabus Redbeard, and Cantabus Redbeard stares at all of you and says, well, how are we doing? We're going to bring this session to a close.
He will so get recruited by the Harpers. He has all the talent and skills they're looking for.
Oh, man. We will bring this to a close because we do have a guest streamer who is coming up right after us, and so we do need to close up on time. But we actually made some good progress, and the dance was successful. It was a fun ball that could have gone out of way. You guys did wonderfully with this, as always, and I hope the chat enjoyed it as much as I did. How did you feel about things? River, as I work up the other way, played by Chai. Chai, how did you feel about River today and the stuff? And where can people find you next?
I was actually really surprised that the dance worked. I was really, really proud about that. I cannot believe how well we were like in sync for most of it. It was insane. So yeah, I had a lot of fun. I think it was great. It was awesome. As far as where the fine people will see me next, I will be streaming over on my personal channel on Friday. I don't know what we're going to be playing. Possibly Gothic. Haven't really decided, but possibly Gothic. And yeah, I stream over there 4 times a week. I'll be here again on Sunday, continuing my playthrough of Soma. And yeah, that's it.
That sounds awesome. It was good times. As always, pleasure to have Chai with us. Moving right up on the line, Mike. It was great to have you back in the fold, doing stuff a little bit more than you expected, a little bit out of the comfort zone for this character. But
yeah, definitely.
This time was going to happen at some point, and it was fun to sort of see this all play out. It reminded me a little bit of the Masquerade and Dragon Age Inquisition. You guys doing your thing, so which is by far easily the best part of that game. But how did you feel about stuff, and where will the fine people see you next week?
It was absolutely fantastic. It was really, really good to be back in the game. Obviously, new house, etc. All that's passed now, and it's nice just to get back into the swing of things. Absolutely fantastic playing with you guys. I forgot how fun it was, to be honest with you, and I forgot just how if I just like let go a little bit, we can do stuff like the Mamushka dance and axe throwing and dragonborn spearing and all this sort of stuff. It was absolutely fantastic. If you want to catch me, anything I'm doing, I'm probably going to publish on Twitter, so you can find me at Screaming Joypad. I don't do a lot of video game stuff at the moment. I'm actually doing some technology-based stuff. I'm going into public speaking in regards to technology, and also blogging as well. So I'm trying to make a bit of a name for myself in that space, just because I'm passionate about. But you never know. The two worlds will interconnect at some point, so stay tuned.
Good stuff, man. Always a pleasure to have Mike here, and it was great to have you back in the saddle on the D&D side of things, man. Moving right up the line, of course, Dark Saber, who did a great job today as the security expert and accountant and gathering information, and did, in fact, help disrupt this attack, which could have gone a very different way. So good work today, Saber. How did you feel about stuff, and where will the fine people see you next?
It has been a long, strange journey, but we've been ruthlessly making our way to this ball for like a year, and it has paid off very, very well. It was an excellent moment to actually finally get to this ball. Like, all of our route planning has been, right, well, we've got this ball we need to get to.
Right.
It's going to be a loss next session. We're going to be like, well, we've been to the ball, now what?
But you got your boy Kentavis, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And as for what I'm doing next, you can catch me on my channel most days of the week. Tomorrow, I'm probably going to be streaming some more Mother Gunship because it's an excellent game. Our very own Memories in 8-bit did do a large amount of work on that game and definitely deserves to be checked out by everyone. Vote on the wish list. I'm just going to pimp that in chat briefly. Everybody go there, vote for it to come on GOG because it hasn't, and I needs fixing. And you can catch me here tomorrow evening where I'll be streaming Postal 2 Paradise Lost, the newly released expansion.
Very, very cool. And yes, definitely vote for that game. Definitely do that, peoples. That's awesome. Thank you. Always a pleasure, Dark Saber. Thanks, man. And yeah, definitely check him out on his channel. Always an entertaining streamer to watch as well. And last, with good taste in games. And last, but certainly not least, of course, is Pyron Jade, who, despite being tired, was able to stick it out. I continue to love, Greta's kind of sort of confused acceptance of life. Sometimes it happens around her. But how did you feel?
I think in the end, that's why she's religious.
Yeah, that's true. You're like, there better be something going on because how did you feel about stuff, Pyron, and where will the fine people see you next?
I felt very well about stuff, and I was very happy to get a gift from my pony tonight. And
yeah, Saddle of the Cavalier.
Yeah, and I actually did a stream last week. I streamed Caves of Kut, which is an amazing, amazing game, just in case you have not heard of it. And this week, I'm mostly just taking care of Guest Streamer Week, which we have a wonderful guest streamer coming up next, which is Femme Ivoire playing Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. So stay tuned for that, because she's awesome. The game is awesome. It's just a perfect fit.
Awesome, awesome. I hear a lot of awesome. That's good stuff. Thank you, Pyron. Great job in setting all that up. And yes, stick around, everyone, for the guest streamer. I will let these folks go and wrap up. Thank you so much to my wonderful players. I always have fun with you guys. You guys do a great job and have wonderful chemistry together. So thank you to Pyron, to Dark Saber, to Screaming Joypad, and to Tasty Chai. You are all the best. Thank you. We will see you next month. Chat, can we get some love for the wonderful players, please? Thanks, everybody. I'll see you guys soon. Bye. Okay. And by the way, just a quick reminder to everybody that next Tuesday I will be back here with Pen and Pixels and BattleTech, but on my channel, I will be actually doing the Chat Chosen Game of the Month, which was Red Alert 2, barely beating out Lord of the Rings Online. Also, the reason I wanted to mention my channel is that Tuesday evening, we are going to have the semi-final for Arvanaut Idol 3, which is my short story contest. And GOG regulars Marinda and GOG streamer Fleos is going to be among the group of people participating with this, along with Dragonspear, who's here sometimes. He's one of my mods, and also Rallo Song and Geronimo. So all of those are going to be the semifinalists. You as chat get a chance to actually decide what happens. So please stop by. That's going to be next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern in a special stream. Otherwise, I'll be back on my channel tomorrow night with a special Wednesday night bonus stream with my voice actors, the R vocalists we call them, doing a voice stream. And then Friday, we have the premiere of a new stream, a new series called Assignment Impossible, which is like my Mission Impossible 60s gig, which is a lot of fun too. So, and then more D&D on Saturday with the Curse of Strahd. Thank you for the follow, Zentech. And more Curse of Strahd, which is a really awesome adventure that I just started with that crew, the Infinity Beyond crew, on Saturday. Next Tuesday, I'll be back here, as I said, at 4 p.m. Eastern for Pen and Pixels and BattleTech. But until then, I want to thank everyone for being here. You guys are all wonderful as always, and please stick around now for our guest streamer who is coming up next. And thank you, much love to everybody, and thank you for enjoying the ball. Until next time, please make sure that you hit critically, because that's the only way you can do things. And I'll see you all soon. Bye for now. Searching though I don't know